Chapter 17:13. Go back on your words, too. If the four-eyed snow mastiff wasn't afraid of this path, it would have already swallowed Li Aochen whole. How good would that have been? Ah! What a pity! Ziyin gave a long sigh. Although she disliked Li Aochen, she was like Su Luo, couldn't do something as kicking Li Aochen out. After all, it was a life. To ask them to harm a life, for no cause or reason to murder him to death, they still couldn't do it. Ziyin was regretful in her heart, but on the surface, her face was full of mockery. She arrogantly looked down from above at Li Aochen laying on the ground. The corner of her mouth hooked into a lack of regard smile as she jeered. Before, who was it that made a solemn vow not to step on our road? Now who is it laying here like a dead dog, motionless? After all, Li Aochen's face was very thin. With Ziyin saying it like this, immediately his face turned red. In addition, his breathing was already like gossamer, so he almost fainted from being angered by Ziyin. What? Did I say it incorrectly? Before, who was it that vowed not to get on our road? In the critical moment of life and death, who was it that ran up to this path with a whoosh sound? Talking about you and you won't accept it? Ziyin smiled coldly and justifiably. Humph! Li Aochen gave a heavy snort and turned his face away. The four-eyed snow mastiff has already fled. If you still have some backbone, you ought to leave this path at this time and continue walking on your difficult path. Ziyin continued to mock him. Opportunity was rare. On top of it, her heart was depressed and had a difficult time calming down. Ziyin naturally would use Li Aochen to release some of the gas. The hands at Li Aochen's side clenched tightly into fists, fingernails sinking deep into his flesh. Ever since he had grown up, he had never suffered this kind of having a person pointing at his nose, cursing him out humiliation. Really hard for a person to accept. Li Aochen's arrogance rose up. He forced himself to stand up in a swaying manner, and straightened his back. He glared coldly at Ziyin and stressed each word to say, "Today's insult, Li Aochen will not forget in this lifetime." Finished saying this, Li Aochen clenched his fist tightly, then staggering he got off the path. Panting for breath, he followed the path and walked forward. Now, the snowy ground he walked on was only a meter away from the path. Seeing this, Ziyin couldn't help but sneer. Bei Qining in despise swept Li Aochen a glance. Since you have so much backbone, then wait until the four-eyed snow mastiff chases over to kill you. You must by all means not come on the path again. Otherwise, I feel like I have lost face on your behalf. Bei Qining really wanted to see, when life received a threat, in the end, would backbone be more important, or would life be more important? Li Aochen's body trembled. His lowered eyes flashed with a malicious meaning, but his footsteps still didn't stop as he moved forward. Originally, Su Luo's group's pace was a lot faster than Li Aochen's. But in order to watch a good show, these people unanimously decided to walk unhurriedly on the road, waiting for the four-eyed snow mastiff to once again honor them with its presence. Don't know if it was because these several people's desires were too strong. After less than half a day's time passed, another four-eyed snow mastiff appeared again from up front. But clearly, this four-eyed snow mastiff wasn't as big as the one before. This one could be classified as around the age of a young child. Its attack power wasn't half as strong as the one before. Li Aochen's gaze met those of that four-eyed snow mastiff's. Afterwards, Li Aochen's figure started to become stiff. The four-eyed snow mastiff also didn't move. Good show came. A smile flashed through Su Luo's eyes. You guys guess what will Li Aochen do next? To fight or to flee? Raise your hand to vote. Guess whether Li Aochen will fight or flee. Chapter 17:14. Go back on your words. 3. What made people speechless was that everyone looked at each other in dismay, but no one raised their hand. Does everyone think he will escape? Su Luo mumbled. Li Aochen's character is already rotten to this degree? What do you think? Ziyin curiously asked Su Luo. Don't need to ask. Su Luo pointed at Li Aochen up ahead, quickly running onto the road. As a matter of fact, the result is already out. Everyone looked at Li Aochen, their gaze containing a faint dullness within them. Just now, Li Aochen was unyielding, upright and icily arrogant. Now, only when he saw this thin and weak four-eyed snow mastiff he directly ran. Moreover, He ran onto the road that drew the most disgrace to himself. This simply made everyone feel complete disbelief. Liaochen hee. Bei Qining could only use hee, these two words, to describe Liaochen's character. Hey, isn't Liaochen being too excessive with once bitten, twice shy? Could it be he doesn't know that it is merely a four-eyed snow mastiff in childhood period that doesn't have a lot of force? Su Luo unhappily pointed at that four-eyed snow mastiff that scared Liaochen to run onto the path with a whoosh sound. You guys look under the belly of that four-eyed snow mastiff. Everyone followed Su Luo's gaze to look over. At one glance, everyone suddenly realized it. Don't know who the four-eyed snow mastiff had battled before. One could see the snow white fur under his belly had a dagger that was steadily and ruthlessly inserted in. Even the handle went in, nearly penetrating through its heart. Seeing Liaochen run with flying speed onto the road, this small four-eyed snow mastiff was clearly scared by the movement. Soon after, it turned around and quickly fled, disappearing in the air. Ha ha ha, ha 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 ha. Ziyan clapped her hands, laughing until she almost couldn't breathe. Liaochen, you were scared shitless by this four-eyed snow mastiff that you could slap dead with one palm. Ha ha ha. Bei Qining pointed at Liaochen, covering his stomach and howling with laughter. He almost rolled on the ground. Right now Liaochen's face was so red, blood could drip out. His figure was stiff and straight. His wrathful gaze looked at that little black that was running further and further away. He was itching to rush up and slap that little four-eyed snow mastiff to death. Hateful. Too hateful. Really shameful. Faced with Ziyan and Bei Qinying's merciless taunting and mockery, Liaochen's complexion turned ashen. In front of them, how could Liaochen still have any self-esteem and face? If it was possible, Liaochen wished he could kill everyone at the scene. Because only dead people could guard a secret forever. Liaochen's malicious gaze swept across everyone's face. Afterwards, he turned his body and used all the strength in his body to rush forward. Really shameful. If I was Liaochen, I would have already knocked my head to the snowy ground and die. Ha ha ha. Bei Qining laughed and kept wiping away the tears. Ziyan was also like this. But Su Luo's expression slowly became grave. Luo, what are you worried about? While laughing, Bei Qining asked. Matters are somewhat not so encouraging. Su Luo gave a long sigh. Where is it not encouraging? How is it that I don't know? Bei Qining completely didn't understand what happened. Liaochen not having been promoted is because his temperament blocked his perception. But now he has lost all face. Afterwards, he would be able to break through the shackles of his temperament. Maybe. A grave expression flashed through Su Luo's eyes. If Liaochen really can break through the shackles of his temperament, rather, we are helping him advance to the next rank. Can't be right. Bei Qining opened his eyes wide in shock. He looked at Su Luo in disbelief. I hope the heavens won't be so blind. Su Luo spread out her hands, expressing she was resigned to fate. Chapter 17-15, Spirit River, 1. Since Liaochen had already left quickly, Su Luo's group also accelerated their pace. The group of people chatted and laughed along the way, not slacking off on their speed. They walked for another half-day's time. And Ziyan couldn't help but frown. It seemed as if Liaochen was seriously injured, but maybe it wasn't like that at all. You guys look, we increased our pace and walked for half a day, and still didn't see his figure. Bei Qining said unconcerned. Maybe Liaochen is already buried in the snowy ground. Ziyan shook her head in disagreement. Hey, you guys look, Ziyan suddenly gave a cry of surprise, attracting everyone's attention. Su Luo looked in the direction Ziyan's finger pointed to, and after seeing the scene, she couldn't help pursing her lips into a smile. Not far away, Dongfang Xian was in the midst of dealing with a flock of snowy swift hawks. It wasn't just one or two snowy swift hawks in the air, but rather, they were densely packed, almost covering the sky. Close to 100 snowy swift hawks attacked towards Dongfang Xian. Dongfang Xian's eyes half narrowed dangerously, his sleeves flying around emotionless. In a flash, 2 snowy swift hawks were beheaded and fell to the snow-covered ground. But because of Dongfang Xian's cruel methods, this infuriated the snowy swift hawks even more. It was to the extent that a large group flew from the clouds, and wave after wave would attack, throwing their lives away. But seeing Dongfang Xian's actions, A deep pondering meaning flashed through Su Luo's eyes. If she didn't guess wrongly, Dongfang Xian still hadn't reached his limit. Now he was only displaying the strength at the summit of 10th rank. Dongfang Xian turned his head and saw Su Luo's group of people leisurely stopping. His brows wrinkled coldly. But very quickly, his mouth hooked into a very devious and crafty smile. After a world-shaking attack, he quickly flew towards Su Luo's group. And at this time, behind Dongfang Xian was a densely packed flock of snowy swift hawks pursuing relentlessly, unwilling to let go. Su Luo frowned. Dongfang Xian hasn't entered the road. It could be seen he doesn't know this road is safe. Ziyan suddenly realized. That is to say, Dongfang Xian brought these snowy swift hawks to attack us. Bei Chening said in a cold voice filled with hate. What a good move, shift the calamity to others. Dongfang Xian used it really skillfully. Although Nangong Luyan didn't say anything, but his beautiful eyebrows were wrinkled slightly. For sure the snowy swift hawks won't be able to get in, but if we are to let Dongfang Xian in, then he would take advantage of this for free. Su Luo expressed her displeasure. Don't want him to come in? Nangong Luyan gave a light laugh, and he bent down to mutter this to Su Luo. Naturally don't want really want to block him but can't Su Luo helpless spread out her hands. Unable to block him? I don't think so. Nangong Luyan moved a step forward. At this moment, Dongfang Xian's figure was already very close to the road. Almost one step and he would enter the safety range of the road. Dongfang Xian lifted his eyes toward Su Luo's group. The corner of his mouth had an ice-cold smile. The snowy swift hawks are pursuing behind and won't let go. Hope that everyone will act to give me assistance. That's your problem and has nothing to do with us. Su Luo gave a sneer. Everyone is on the same boat. If I, Dongfang Xian, die, you guys won't escape the pursuit of the snowy swift hawks. While Dongfang Xian was speaking, he stepped onto the fiery red road. And that flock of snowy swift hawks rushed over behind him. Dongfang Xian's eyes and hands were swift. His hand was lightning fast as he grabbed at Ziyan who was closest to him. At this time, Dongfang Xian grabbing Ziyan, besides using her to block the hawks for him. What else could be his purpose? Su Luo angrily shouted. Stop! At the same time, she rushed towards Dongfang Xian. Chapter 17-16, Spirit River, 2. But before Su Luo's figure could get close to Dongfang Xian, she saw Dongfang Xian's figure, like a broken-off kite, was quickly sent flying backwards. Su Luo opened her eyes wide, then turned and just so happened to see Nangong Luyan retract his long straight leg. Su Luo swallowed some saliva. If you replay the scene back, it was very easy to see Nangong Luoyun's awesome action of kicking Dongfang Xian flying away. But a pity, Su Luo only saw the last movement. Didn't you not want him to enter? The corner of Nangong Luoyun's mouth hooked into an enchanting smile. His slender arm was placed on Su Luo's shoulder. With one move, she fell into his embrace. But this action of yours, isn't it? Too straightforward. Dongfang Xian postured for so long, but Nangong Luyan directly kicked him flying with one foot. Su Luo's gaze looked all around and saw Dongfang Xian laying far away on the ground. His eyes were closed motionless, with a gossamer of breath, as if he had fainted. Really awesome. I also want to learn. Bei Chenying's pair of eyes stared at Nangong Luyan like flickering stars. You can't learn it. Nangong Luyan gave a light snort. Impossible. Bei Chenying rushed up, wishing to hug Nangong Luyan's thigh. Nangong Luyan almost kicked him. Since you want to learn, then learn properly. Nangong Luyan also sent Bei Chenying flying with one kick. Just when Su Luo and Ziyan were astonished and cried out in surprise, they saw that Bei Chenying's figure just so happened to knock into Dongfang Xian's body, who had crawled up with great difficulty and was swaying around unsteadily. Oh! Subconsciously, Su Luo gave an exclamation of admiration. Then she saw Bei Chenying's but sit on Dongfang Xian's head. It was to the point that the other person directly laid on the ground unconscious. Could Bei Chenying not be so handsome? Simply too handsome, okay? Ziyan's eyes went straight from watching. But at this time, Bei Chenying was unable to speak of his suffering, because at this moment, above him was a flock of snowy swift hawks that covered the sky. Every one of them was ruthless, bloodthirsty and cruel. with sharp claws that were like snow swords, attacking them wave upon waves. Bei Qining was innocent. But who told him to squash a snowy swift hawk while in midair after being kicked by Nangong Luyan? How could the overprotective, biased snowy swift hawks let this matter go? As a result, this densely packed flock of snowy swift hawks launched indiscriminate attacks towards Bei Qining and Dongfang Xian. Damn! Under a cloud of sharp fangs and talons, Bei Qining almost couldn't hang on. He tossed the unconscious Dongfang Xian in the air, at the same time, grabbed this life and death opportunity. His figure was fast as the speed of light. With a swoosh sound he entered the road. That was close. Watching one after another, the snowy swift hawks couldn't attack in. Bei Qining rejoiced and wiped away the sweat on his forehead. Just now, just a little bit more, and he would have died. Where is Dongfang Xian? Ziyan's attention was on Dongfang Xian. Surrounded by snowy swift hawks, right? Su Luo frowned. According to logic, the unconscious Dongfang Xian should have already been torn into pieces, but... So as to say this time, Dongfang Xian died for certain? Ziyan's eyes were full of smiles. With regards to this senior brother, not only were they estranged, in addition, they were more like enemies. Su Luo looked at the densely black area of snowy swift hawks, and shook her head. Dongfang Xian disappeared. What? Ziyan cried out in disbelief, standing on tiptoes and looked ahead. How could he disappear? How could he disappear just like that? Chapter 1717 Spirit River 3. Don't know. Su Luo's pair of hands spread open, expressing her helplessness. Just now, in the blink of an eye, Dongfang Xian's figure had disappeared. Su Luo really didn't know. Teleportation stone. Nangong Luyan's voice was clear and cold. Damn. Bei Qining angrily cursed. Before, in the 9 different palace halls, Li Yaoyao was able to escape because of teleportation stone. Now Dongfang Xian also used this method. Will these scourges really remain for millennium? Dongfang Xian's group all received attacks from magical beasts. Almost all of them had narrow escapes at critical moments. But Su Luo's group had an unimpeded and smooth journey along the way. They safely crossed over the entire snow mountain. Along the way, not only didn't they get attacked, they also saw some interesting scenery. Comparing both sides, the difference was exceptionally clear. Su Luo's group seemed to be on a scenic tour. Very quickly, they reached the summit of the snow mountain. The snow mountain towered, entering into the sky. Standing on the summit, stretching out a hand could almost touch the round clouds, as if they were immortals. Such a beautiful huge snow mountain. Seeing such a beautiful scenery, no matter how bitter the road, it was worth it. Immersed in this sea of clouds, Ziyan looked down from the top at the snow-covered mountain ranges, giving a gasp of admiration. That's right, really beautiful. Su Luo's heart relaxed. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Here the air was fresh and clean. The air that was sucked into the lungs seemed to carry a sweet flavor that refreshed the heart. You guys look. Dongfang Xian's group. Bei Qining looked all around, and then saw Dongfang Xian's figure. Su Luo followed the place that he said to look down. After looking, she couldn't help but secretly rejoice in her heart. You could faintly see Dongfang Xian's outline in that little black dot in the distance. This time, it wasn't him alone, but rather the 3 of them joined together. Before, Dongfang Xian used a teleportation stone to escape the attack of the snowy swift hawks, but there was an endless stream of magical beasts in this snowy mountain. Now, the 3 of them used all their strength to run forward, and behind them were a countless number of brown-eyed snow leopards pursuing. That cruel appearance was as if Dongfang Xian, and they had enmity that would end only if one side died. Dongfang Xian's group really has bad luck. Although Ziyan said sympathizing words, but there weren't a bit of sympathy on her face. Instead, she had a schadenfreude expression. What is Li Yaochen looking for? Su Luo's mouth hooked into a ghost of a smile, asking a question she knew the answer to. What else could he be looking for? For sure he is searching for our road. Bei Qining saw Su Luo run over to pick up the little stone they tossed before, Su Luo's smile becoming even happier. A pity they don't know that once we leave that road, it would automatically disappear. More accurate to say, the lava contained in that road had a time limit. After all, It was only a portion that was fetched over, couldn't contend with the entire huge mountain of snow. Dongfang Xian's strength again upgraded somewhat. Su Luo said to Nangong Luoyun. Nangong Luoyun's brows knitted slightly and said with an unworried expression, "He is just a thin line away from commander rank. If you guys have nothing to do, don't provoke him." "Yes." Su Luo nodded in endorsement. Dongfang Xian might break through in the next moment, or maybe it might take several years. These were hard to predict, but if Dongfang Xian got promoted to commander rank, his strength would multiply. Very likely, he would be a threat to Su Luo's group's life. "Should we?" Nangong Luoyun looked at Su Luo. He wanted to say something but hesitated. "If we kill Dongfang Xian without cause or reason, it won't be easy to explain it to your master, right?" Su Luo's little face slanted up, looking at Nangong Luoyun. Chapter 17-18 Spirit River 4. Unless Dongfang Xian personally killed her, only then could Nangong Luoyun kill Dongfang Xian. But under the circumstances that Dongfang Xian hadn't made a move against her, Nangong Luoyun could not kill him. Don't just look at Dongfang Xian as only a thin line away from the commander rank. Maybe he will be confused by this thin line for several years. Maybe even after I get promoted, he may still not be promoted. Moreover, you already said you will leave Dongfang Xian for me to settle. Su Luo smilingly said. If it is like this, then Dongfang Xian would be infuriated to death. Ziyan smilingly added. That couldn't be better. Su Luo's face was full of smiles. Let them live or perish on their own, don't bother with them. Let us quickly pass this third challenge. I feel as if there is some great benefit waiting for us in the third challenge. Huh, what is that over there? Bei Chening suddenly pointed in the eastern direction, as he excitedly said to Nangong Luoyun. Over there. Everyone followed and looked in the direction Bei Chening pointed. East side was still full of pure white snow, but looking at it, it also seemed somewhat different. Other there, the spirit force soars to the sky and it is very rich. It's not very normal. Nangong Luoyun closed his eyes and sensed a while. Then he opened his eyes and told everyone what he sensed. At this time, Su Luo had already taken out the map. She speculated a bit according the simple route on it. Then, with an expression of astonishment, she lifted her head. This map is really strange. What's going on? Ziyan and Bei Chening both came over, encircling over. You guys look, this map seems to be alive. Su Luo couldn't cover up her excitement as she said to everyone. Do you guys remember? Before this map was merely a few brush strokes. The drawing was pitiful and very simple. But now you guys look. Su Luo pointed at a certain corner of the map, as she excitedly said. I remember very clearly originally. This spirit river wasn't there before. But now it was at the east side of the snow mountain. A white-colored mark for a spirit river suddenly appeared. Although it was a tiny mark that was easy to overlook, but Su Luo still noticed it when searching on the map. This really is. A spirited expression flashed through Nangong Luoyun's eyes. What Su Luo said wasn't wrong. He had already memorized this map by heart since earlier, to the extent that he could clearly draw this map from memory. He remembered clearly that this mark for a spirit river wasn't there before. If he didn't guess wrong, it was as Su Luo said, this marking had just appeared. Such a strange map, how can it be like this? Bei Chening and Ziyan exchanged a glance. Bei Chening indulged in wild fantasy to say, could it be we have to discover it for ourselves before it will appear on the map? Maybe you really guessed correctly, young man. Su Luo patted Bei Chening's shoulder. If it weren't for your yell just now, I reckon this spirit river wouldn't appear. Hiccup, Bei Chening expressed. He had nothing to say. Walk, let's go towards this spirit river. Since it was even a hidden marking on the map, then maybe there will be a lot of treasures over there. According to Su Luo's treasure hunting experience, there really was this possibility. Everyone looked at Dongfang Xian's group of 3 fighting for their lives with the snow leopards. All of them smiled slightly, then their footsteps didn't stop as they shot forward at high speed. This rushing along persisted for 2 hours. During this time, Su Luo's group also crossed over the snow mountain with magical beasts. Struggles naturally were unavoidable. Because the magical beasts in the snow mountain had an absolutely irreconcilable hatred with humans. With regards to them, human blood and meat was a very nutritious drug supplement, similar to humans' requirement for crystal stones. Chapter 1719 Spirit River 5. Because with Nangong Luyan present, these magical beasts just weren't enough to enter their eyes. Not only were they killed, even traces of their bodies were thoroughly eliminated. As the distance to the destination got closer, Su Luo could clearly feel the change in the spirit force in her surroundings. From the thin feeling in the beginning, to it gradually becoming richer, until at the end, where the richness of the spirit force could make people go crazy. Quick. A bit quicker. Such rich spirit force, even Ziyin sensed it. At this moment, her eyes were bright with excitement, her saliva almost flowing out. Such rich spirit force, if you could sit down and cultivate, she believed her strength would have a gigantic leap in a short time. Moreover, clearly, this place wasn't the final destination. The spirit force up ahead would be even richer. Just thinking of this, Ziyin was so happy she almost flew up. Immediately, Su Luo's mood became good too. Along the side, she mobilized her spirit dance steps while she smilingly said, "This time, we are in the very first, hope we can absorb all the spirit force, then leave Dongfang Xian's group an empty shell would be best." Little greedy ghost. Nangong Luyan patted Su Luo's head in exasperation. Could it be my wish isn't beautiful? I think this wish is very good. Su Luo lifted her chin, unconvinced, confidently declaring her wish. In any case, I want to take away all of these spirit force. Won't leave a bit of it for Dongfang Xian. Completely endorse it. Must carry it all away. Bei Chening firmly stood on Su Luo's side and nodded resolutely. Unexpectedly, Nangong Luyan helplessly patted Su Luo's head and slanted Bei Chening a glance in exasperation. If you guys can carry it away, I'll write my last name backwards. Ha! Seeing Nangong Luyan so certain, Su Luo couldn't help but be surprised. It's not like what I think, right? Really sorry you thought correctly. Nangong Luyan nodded matter-of-factly. Then that really would be difficult. Su Luo scratched her head and felt it really was very difficult. In the end, what are you guys talking about? Examining it, I recognize every word but put together. How is it though I don't understand it? Bei Chening stupidly looked at the two people in front of him. Very quickly, you will understand, young man. Su Luo gave him an annoyed glare. Still want to carry it all away? Dang. Don't even think about it. If it really is what I and Nangong Luyan think it, then, when Dongfang Xian's group search over, they'll get the small advantage of being able to possess it. Therefore we should still hurry. The earlier we arrive, the better. Although Bei Chening and Ziyin didn't understand the meaning in Su Luo's words, but they could still understand one sentence. That was, the earlier they arrived, the better. They had eaten a loss during the distribution of source stones in the second challenge, so they knew from experience the truth of the earlier they arrived, the better. As a result, without waiting for Su Luo to tell them, they had already placed all their spirit force into their feet, using their greatest strength to rush ahead. Because everyone used their fastest speed, therefore, in less than 1 hour, everyone had arrived at this time's destination. Seeing the scene in front, Su Luo took a deep breath. Really is a spirit river, ah? What she expected was correct. This rich spirit force really was issued by this spirit river. Up ahead was a dusky sky. Right across it was a fiery red heavenly river. Don't know from where this river water comes from. Also don't know from where it is flowing to. The two sections in front and behind all blended into the space without an end, as if the entire river was static and motionless. Lifting their head to look at this magnificent heavenly river in front of them, everyone sucked in a deep breath of cold air. Chapter 1720, Spirit River 6. Such a spectacular heavenly river 1. Ziyin cried out in surprise. How could such a heavenly river extend horizontally through the sky? Ah! This is against common sense, ah! Such rich spirit force. Bei Chening took a deep breath. Is there a mistake? Just taking a breath, I can feel my strength go up a tiny bit. It's not a mistake, Su Luo silently glanced at Bei Chening. Because my strength also went up. This heavenly river was simply too abnormal and too mystical, okay? Don't need to move, just standing here. Your strength could rise up. How to use this heavenly river? Could it be we should just stand here and absorb it? Bei Qining excitedly walked back and forth. First you guys stand in place and don't move. Nangong Liuyun's figure lifted up from the ground as he quickly flew towards the heavenly river in mid-air. Why stand here and not move? If Dongfang Xian's group catch up. Ziyin gloomily watched her senior brother. She wanted to grab as much time as she could to absorb all the spirit force. She didn't want Dongfang Xian's group to benefit from this. The richness of the spirit force in the spirit river reaches the degree where it captures people. If I didn't guess wrong, there must be a very fierce magical beast inside this spirit river protecting it. The degree of danger isn't something we can withstand. Although Su Luo was speaking to Ziyin, but her gaze unblinkingly watched Nangong Liuyun's figure. Sure enough, before Su Luo finished speaking, there was already movement up ahead. When Nangong Liuyun's palm, containing earth-shaking force, slapped towards that spirit river, a scarlet red-colored python rushed out from the spirit river and soared towards the sky. It gave an angry howl. This python was about 100 meters long, with a huge head that was as big as a 3-story building. Its pair of eyes was even larger than Nangong Liuyun's figure. With this kind of comparison, Nangong Liuyun's figure was so tiny as to be negligible. As a result, when the python saw this tiny human in front of it, the corner of its mouth gave a cold sneer. Ignorant and insignificant humankind, accept death. Afterwards, its huge red tongue quickly rolled towards Nangong Liuyun. The python's strength is formidable. Bei Qining cried out in alarm. If he didn't sense it wrong, the python was at least at the commander rank. Yes, very formidable. Su Luo's heart clenched slightly, although she had full confidence in Nangong Liuyun. But on second thought, a python able to protect this spirit river, how could its strength be bad? This battle before a winner and loser was decided. Her heart won't be able to relax. This battle between strong experts at the summit of all experts, Su Luo's group of people simply couldn't insert in. Even if they ran in with great difficulty, they would only become cannon fodder. Therefore, the three of them stood in place far away, not rushing up because their brain was feverish. Because that way, they would only be a hindrance to Nangong Liuyun, rather than of help. The python's huge tongue engulfed towards Nangong Liuyun. But very clearly, it had underestimated the strength of this human in front of it. When the python's tongue swept over, Nangong Liuyun's right hand spread out. An extremely sharp treasure sword immediately appeared in his hand. Qi Xiao sword. Pop! A soft sound echoed. A dark red appeared on that python tongue that was attacking towards Nangong Liuyun. Blood gushed out from the wound. Howl! The python, in a moment of unawareness, actually received heavy losses the first time it fought with Nangong Liuyun. This made it howl loudly and violently, its anger reaching a new peak. How sharp was Qi Xiao's sword? With just one exchange, it almost chopped off that python tongue. If it wasn't for that python's fast reaction, that tongue would have already been cut off at the base. 1. Heavenly River. The author can't seem to make up her mind. She keeps switching from Heavenly River to Spirit River, so I just translated whichever term she used. Chapter 1721, Spirit River 7. The python was extremely angry. Its pair of huge eyes searched everywhere for the enemy's figure. But what made it even more furious was that humankind's figure had actually disappeared from in front of it. Not only was the sword sharp, the attack power was also formidable. Moreover, his speed was fast to this extent. Was he still an insignificant humankind? The rage to battle was completely ignited in the huge python's heart. Where was Nangong Liuyun at this moment? In fact, as early as when his sword chopped at the python's tongue, his figure had turned around and arrived at the python's lower lip. The python's body was too huge. The range of its vision simply couldn't see under its own lips. Just when it was furiously wandering around, searching for Nangong Liuyun, Nangong Liuyun was pressed against its lower lips. Qi Xiao's sword once again appeared in his hand. Just when the python roared furiously, Nangong Liuyun looked for an opportunity, and once again chopped down on that python tongue that extended out. Moreover, this time, he cut on that wound from before. It overlapped the wound from before, adding injury to the same wound. Immediately, from the wound that hadn't healed yet, blood rushed out like a fountain. 2 times in a row inflicting serious damage, injured by Nangong Luyan holding Qi Shao sword. As a result, this tongue of the python's really wasn't able to be preserved. One only heard a sharp and clear bang sound, and the dark red-colored python tongue broke off at the base and fell heavily to the ground. The python's tongue contained a lot of venom. A python's most powerful attack was its tongue. But it never expected that Nangong Luyan would come up and directly chop off its tongue. Not only was this humankind beyond its expectations, moreover, he went greatly beyond its expectations. Howl this time, the python really was furious. The sharp pain almost made it lose its reason. Moreover, the pain of losing its tongue made it fall apart. As a result, the python went insane. One only saw it get up and soar to the sky. Its enormous body twisted into a fried dough shape in midair as it bellowed and roared down below. A countless amount of poison sprayed all around, similar to a sprinkler spinning in a circular arc. The range of its spray was so wide that people couldn't guard against it. On the ground, before the python became enraged, Su Luo had already sensed the danger. She lifted Ziyan up and rushed forward while howling at Bai Qining on the side. Quickly run! Bai Qingying's reaction was still considered quick. Seeing Su Luo dashing out, he hurriedly released his feet and ran madily. The python's huge body was entrenched in midair, close to covering the sky. It sprayed poison quickly and hurriedly. Moreover, its range was extremely wide. Fortunately, Su Luo's group had reacted very quickly. Under their mad rushing, their bodies shot out like arrows. At last, with great difficulty, they ran outside the range of its poisonous spray. After all, Bai Qinying's reaction was slower by half a step, therefore, he unfortunately encountered a drop of the poison. When that drop of poison shot onto Bai Qinying's back, Bai Qining was so scared that his soul almost flew away. His worry wasn't superfluous, rather it was very necessary. Because when the splash of poison landed on his back, he heard a sizzling sound with his own ears. That sound was like pork belly being roasted on an iron plate. Bai Qining gave a cry of alarm from being scared. Not only was he scared, he also felt the pain. That drop of poison was like the strongest corrosive in the world. In an instant, it ate through a small area on Bai Qinying's back. Moreover, with a speed the naked eye could see, it was extending out quickly toward his muscle. Hearing Bai Qinying screech, a not good came from Su Luo's thought. As a result, she quickly abandoned Ziyan, turned back and went to pull Bai Qining. After running outside the poison spray's range with great difficulty, Su Luo hurriedly examined Bai Qinying's injury. Chapter 1722, Spirit River. 8. Don't need to ask, just listening to the sizzle sound of flesh being corroded, Su Luo knew Bai Qinying's back injury was very serious. How to resolve this venom? Su Luo was so anxious that she was spinning around in circles. Luo Lu, quickly think of a way. Bai Qining is about to die. Ziyan was so anxious that tears almost rolled out of her eyes. Right now, because it was hard for Bai Qining to hide the pain, his face was pale without a trace of color. Bean-sized beads of sweat tumbled down. His face was twisted because of extreme pain. At this moment, his entire body was lying on the ground, trembling non-stop. Su Luo quickly went up, and with one pull, ripped off the clothes on Bai Qinying's back. As a result, that pitch-black-as-ink wound immediately appeared in front of Su Luo's eyes. As Su Luo expected, the wound on Bai Qinying's back had a coin-sized flesh that was corroded off by the venom. Moreover, this wound was spreading in all directions non-stop. If Su Luo didn't do anything, this wound would extend out to his entire body. At that time, even if an immortal descended, Bai Qining would have already become a charred black skeleton. Ziyan continuously pleaded with Su Luo to help. But Su Luo had never encountered such a toxic poison. She was also a bit powerless. However, if she didn't treat it immediately, Bai Qining would really be dead for sure. Blood clotting pill. Take a blood clotting pill and try it. Su Luo had no other methods. As a result, she quickly took out an emperor-ranked blood clotting pill. At the same time, Su Luo's sleeves moved slightly. Suddenly, a sharp dagger appeared in her hand. Following, it will be very painful. You must by all means endure it. Don't move back and forth. Su Luo quickly said this to Bai Qining. Bai Qining endured the acute pain and slowly nodded. Su Luo then sent a meaningful glance at Ziyan. Ziyan understood and hurriedly nodded to say, "Rest assured, I definitely will hold Bai Qining still and won't let him flail about." Having gotten the guarantee, Su Luo lit up a brilliant spark on the dagger to disinfect it. Afterwards, a white light flashed by, and the dagger had drawn a circle around on Bai Qingying's back. Afterwards, it picked out that piece of burnt black rotting flesh and tossed it out. Bai Qining stiffly allowed a piece of meat to be cut off, enduring the acute pain, but he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. But after this cut, Su Luo's brows knotted tightly, because she discovered that the blood flowing out was still blackish-purple in color. This indicated that the poison still wasn't completely cleaned out. A strict expression flashed through Su Luo's eyes. She coldly instructed Ziyan. "Press down on Bai Qining to keep him still." "Okay." Ziyan nodded seriously. She was also aware of the seriousness of the situation. Su Luo took a deep breath and tightly grasped the dagger in her hand as it gradually became steady. Soon after, another white light flashed by quickly. Just now, in the area she dug out the rotting meat, another circle was dug out. The wound was so deep you could see the bones. Because this cut by Su Luo wasn't just to scrape away at the flesh. Rather, it penetrated deep into the muscle layer. Because she needed to scrape away all of it cleanly, otherwise the rotting flesh would still spread in all directions. In the wake of that rotting flesh being scrapped off, dark red blood madly rushed out like a fountain. Seeing the brilliant red blood spraying out, Su Luo's heart immediately relaxed. Because this indicated that the venom had already been removed cleanly. Su Luo crushed the emperor-ranked blood-clotting pill into powder, and carefully sprinkled it on the wound. Very quickly, a reaction occurred on the wound. This was worthy of being emperor-ranked blood-clotting pill. The result was very good. When the fine powder was sprinkled on, the blood madly rushing out immediately stopped. Chapter 1723, Cultivate, 1. A very thick scab formed on Bai Qinying's wound. Very quickly, that hard thick scab fell off, revealing a pink-colored, fresh, delicate, infant-like, soft and slippery skin. Really mystical. Having personally witnessed this miracle occurring, Ziyan took a deep breath. Her eyes opened until they were perfectly round. Fortunately, the blood clot pill was effective, otherwise, there was nothing I could do. Su Luo smiled, spitting out a muddy breath. It seemed the blood clot pills master set aside for her really were omnipotent. The healing results were extremely good. At this moment, Bai Qinying's pain stopped, and he also stopped crying out loud. He curiously touched his own back, with an expression of it being mystical. Isn't it very itchy for new flesh to grow in? However now, it's very strange, it actually don't feel a bit itchy. The corner of Su Luo's mouth twitched. Can it be you didn't see through it? The scab that formed already fell off. How can it itch? This clearly was because the recovery speed was too fast. There simply wasn't enough time for him to feel itchy, okay? Just when everyone was talking, suddenly, a bitter sound exploded from mid-air. Su Luo's chest suddenly felt obstructed, and she lifted her eyes to look towards the sky. At this moment, Nangong Luyan, and that python was in the midst of a furious fight. The python was spraying out blood nonstop from its mouth. The specks of bloody mist spurted out in all four directions. But it had already lost Nangong Luyan's figure that was in front of it. To the extent that all its efforts came up empty. Right now, where was Nangong Luyan? In fact, before it started spraying out the mist of blood, he had already concealed himself on its lower lips. This place was a gap in the python's line of sight. So no matter what, it couldn't see Nangong Luyan's figure. When the python realized this blind spot, Nangong Luyan's figure moved, and had already flown to the back of the python. He quickly flew up until he stood on the python's back. Pitch black as ink Qi Shao sword exploded out with an extremely sharp and cold light. Soon after, a white light flashed. Plop! A place 7 inches on the python's body, the sharp and slender Qi Shao sword entered all the way to its base. Only a tiny sword hilt was left behind. Hell, 7 inches was fiercely pierced in. The python felt an acute pain attack over. Its figure couldn't help but sway. Then it almost fell to the ground. The 7 inches on the python was as important as a human's heart. If the important place was stabbed, only 50% of the python's strength would remain from 100%. But also because of this, the python's vicious nature was thoroughly aroused. The python turned its body around. Its huge bloody mouth suddenly bit towards Nangong Luoyun. Nangong Luoyun had already anticipated this, and his figure was like electricity, quickly retreating back. Right now, the python suddenly lost all its reason, but the strength of its instincts became frantic. One only saw its huge tail lift up and fiercely whip towards Nangong Luoyun. This was the python's attack with all its strength. Su Luo's heart, in an instant, seized up. She almost stopped breathing. Her pair of watery eyes stared fixedly at Nangong Luoyun, afraid he would be injured because of this. Bei Qining and Ziyin also watched Nangong Luoyun, full of concern. Quickly daja, quickly daja. Bei Qining nervously watched Nangong Luoyun stand in place. He didn't understand what happened. Su Luo's expression was also very anxious, because she discovered Nangong Luoyun was standing in place motionless, not dodging nor evading. Just at this moment the python's tail had already swept close. Bang! Nangong Luoyun waved his right fist and attacked, fiercely smashing onto the python's attacking tail. Momentarily the weather changed. An ear-piercing sound of friction from the hit exploded from midair. Nangong Luoyun's right fist contained berserk strength, as it heavily smashed towards the python's tail. Chapter 1724. Cultivate 2. Oh heavens! Subconsciously, Ziyin covered her eyes with her pair of hands. This kind of desperate situation, she simply couldn't bear to watch. How could humankind's fist go against the body of a python? The python was about 100 meters long, that tail alone was close to 50 meters. It was extremely wide. A human's fist was only that big, how could it win? Not only Ziyin, even Bei Qining and Su Luo almost cried out loud. But when Nangong Luoyun's fists collided together with the python's tail, one only heard the python give a scream of bitter pain. Immediately, the entire world seemed to only have the blood-curdling scream from the python as it twisted and convulsed in midair. Soon after, Su Luo saw the python's long tail droop down, stiffening into a straight line. And not far away, Nangong Luoyun stood in midair. His hand held a very thin white line. In the wake of the white line in his hand hitting its target, the python continuously gave out cries of bitter pain. It was in so much pain that its tears and mucus flowed out together. It was in so much pain that it howled madly as if its heart was torn and lungs split. Now Su Luo finally saw clearly. Nangong Luoyun seemed to be controlling the python like playing with a kite. The reason was that white line was the nerve in the python's back. Damn! Bei Qining was too excited, and directly burst out with a mouthful of vulgar language. His finger trembled, pointing at Nangong Luoyun in midair, in a carefree manner flying the python like kite. His mouth was full of disbelief and excitement. I thought this time, second brother would for sure be whipped until he only had half a breath left. Really fucking didn't expect. Not only wasn't a hair on his head harmed, on the contrary, he used the python as a kite to play with. Oh come on, the distance between imagination and reality was as far as heaven and earth, okay? Bei Qinying's lip trembled, he couldn't even mumble a word. Bei Qining could never have thought before, when Nangong Luoyun's fist smashed towards the python's tail, he had actually accurately calculated the python's back nerve. With one fist smashing over, he was able to grab the line of the python's back nerve. Soon after, he grasped it in his hand and conversely threatened the python. The python rolled about in midair from the pain, constantly trying to attack Nangong Luoyun. Nangong Luoyun had victory in his grasp. How could he let it prevail? He suddenly pulled at the thread of nerve in his hand. One only heard a sharp, clear crashing sound, and the back nerve on the python's back was suddenly pulled out. Howl! The python howled in pain. Soon after, its huge body suddenly fell down. Bang! A loud sound echoed. The python, staring blankly, fell down from midair and heavily smashed down. Just at this moment, Nangong Luoyun's figure was standing straight. One only saw his right leg extend out and suddenly kick the body of the felling python. As a result, the python's falling speed and gravity pull increased by a lot. When the python smashed into the ground, it actually smashed out a pit that was several dozen meters deep. And at this moment, the python had already been smashed into pieces, blood sprayed out wildly from its mouth, laying in the deep pit, dying with a gossamer's breath. Nangong Liuyun's figure moved, and soon after, he appeared by Su Luo's side. "Are you injured?" Su Luo's gaze nervously sized him up. "Yes." Nangong Liyun, who was just now strutting around in a flash, entered the mode of seeking her to pet him. A pair of beautiful pitch-black as ink eyes looked at Su Luo pitifully. "Hand is very sore." As a result, Su Luo automatically held his hand and said laughingly, "Give you some strength." Nangong Liyun was immediately satisfied and smiled like a fool. How to deal with this python? Bei Chening ran a circle around the deep pit, then ran to Nangong Liuyun's side and asked spiritedly. Chapter 1725. This disappearance will be long one. What do you say? Nangong Liuyun's enchanting red lips hooked into a ghost of a smile. Cut it into 8 large chunks. Bei Chening righteously brandished his fist. He still hadn't forgotten the matter of him almost becoming liquid from the python's corrosive venom. Destroy the body. Wipe clean all traces. Ziyan followed, also joining in. Okay. Nangong Liyun noncommittally nodded. Soon after, one only saw his white long finger squeeze out a simple imprint, and place it on the forehead of the python in the deep pit. Pop! A clear sound echoed. Soon after, a pitch-black as ink crystal stone steadily flew towards Nangong Liuyun's hand. Commander-rank crystal stone. It was rarely seen in this world. Nangong Liyun didn't even think before handing the crystal stone to Su Luo. "It's best you keep it." Su Luo hesitated a bit before placing the crystal stone in the center of Nangong Liuyun's palm. He always set aside the best things for her. But at this time, clearly, he was the one in most need of absorbing this black-colored crystal stone. At this moment, she couldn't use it. Meeting Su Luo's quick-witted gaze from her pair of eyes like clear water, Nangong Liyun gave a soft laugh. This time he didn't decline and stuffed this crystal stone into his chest pocket. He nodded and said, "Also good, the spirit force in the spirit river is more than enough for you to absorb." At this moment, Bei Chening and Ziyan together rushed to sort out the python. The pitiful python, originally, it was a commander-ranked magical beast. Bei Chening and Ziyan were merely ant-like existences in front of it. But now, the tiger had fallen after being cheated by the dog. It was bullied by these 2 ant-like people in front of it until it almost died. When it fell down, it wasn't thoroughly dead, it was still hungry, gasping out its last breath. If you gave it sufficient time, it absolutely could have its strength restored. But now, the crystal stone that prolonged its life was taken away by Nangong Liyun. Its body was also endlessly attacked by Bei Chening and Ziyan. A countless number of killing moves smashed towards its body. In the end, the python died with remaining grievances as it closed its eyes. Great hatred has been avenged, really feel refreshed. Bei Chening unrolled the sleeves he had rolled up, cheerfully rubbing his hand. Ziyan unhappily cast him a glance. Soon after, she cheerfully ran to in front of Nangong Liyun. She couldn't suppress her excitement and said, "Third senior brother, can we go up now?" Her slender white jade-like finger pointed at that spirit river going horizontally through mid-air. "That's right, can we go up now?" Su Luo's tone also had a trace of eagerness. She didn't forget that behind them was Dongfang Xian's group of annoying people following on their heels. If they didn't rush forward a step before them, wouldn't they let Dongfang Xian's group get a small advantage? Nangong Liuyun's eyes closed slightly, his spirit entering the spirit river. After a while he slowly opened his eyes, his beautiful eyes clear and bright. "Okay now." The simple 2 words made the remaining 3 people extremely excited. "Enter the spirit river." Nangong Liyun finished speaking, and his large and warm palm held Su Luo's hand. The 2 people looked at each other and nodded slightly. The tip of their toes pushed off on the ground. Their 2 figures gracefully lifting from the ground and flying to the sky. They quickly rushed into the spirit river bubbling with spirit force. Soon after, Bei Chening and Ziyan were also unwilling to be left behind. They quickly caught up to the pace of the two people. One only heard a slight noise, and Su Luo's body had already entered the spirit river. The atmosphere of the spirit river surged vigorously, incomparably deep and resounding. When Su Luo entered the spirit river, she felt as if her body was placed in a perilous situation. The spirit river's momentum was fierce, like a strange beast from ancient times. It spread open its frantic bloody mouth, swallowing all the living thing that entered the spirit river. At this moment, Su Luo was like a very small boat. She could only helplessly accept being compelled to drift along the waves with the flow. Chapter 1726. This disappearance will be long, too. Nangong Luyan protected Su Luo very well, tightly holding her in his arms, letting her avoid the bitter pain of blood and qi rolling over. Compared to Su Luo, Bei Chen-ing and Ziyan had to suffer hardship. And among the two of them, Ziyan suffered the heaviest battering. Fortunately, she had the elemental elf supplying her with a steady flow of spirit force, so she was able to withstand the spirit river's attacks. Also, because of this, a scarlet bloodstain hung at the corner of Ziyan's mouth and her nose, but she was able to persevere so her figure stood straight and didn't fall. The road to being strong had never been because of a fluke or gains without effort. Want to absorb the spirit force from the spirit river, you must pay a corresponding price. If you couldn't even resist the spirit river's attack, how could you speak of absorbing it? Thinking up to here, Su Luo pushed out from Nangong Liuyun's hug. Her pitch-black bright gaze looked at him deeply. Let me do it on my own. Her tone was serene but also had an unprecedented firmness. She knew that the road to becoming strong, she must depend on herself to firmly continue to walk on this road. Although Nangong Liuyun's eyes had admiration and reluctance, it also carried a trace of appreciation and being gratified. His incomparably handsome face spread out into a faint smile and said in a pleased tone, "Then you must be careful." "I can bear it." Su Luo clearly and coolly nodded. Even Ziyan could personally resist this impact force. Don't tell me she still had to hide in Nangong Liuyun's embrace? Okay. Nangong Liuyun reluctantly released her hand. After leaving Nangong Liuyun's arms, the berserk forces of impact immediately surrounded Su Luo. Su Luo seemed to be standing in the intersection of two huge waves, her thin and weak body continuously rolling from the pounding. The momentum of this spirit river was even more dangerous than that night Su Luo spent in the eastern seas. A countless number of huge waves slapped at Su Luo's body nonstop. At this moment, Su Luo was sitting with her legs crossed, her eyes were tightly closed and her complexion was pale as paper. The original red lips now completely lacked color. From her tightly clenched jaw, you could tell that right now, she was enduring unprecedented pain. Even if it was like this, Su Luo still tightly bit her lips, not saying a word as she endured this fierce pain. But during the pain, an endless stream of spirit force penetrated and quickly entered Su Luo's body. In the world, there simply wasn't a spirit river giving off energy. If there was such a river, it could simply create lots of strong experts 10th ranked and below. Only in this secret roaming dragon territory would such an opportunity that defied the laws of nature exist. The spirit force in the spirit river had an extremely powerful nourishing effect on strong experts. It was easier to absorb and change into spirit force than a black-colored crystal stone. The only bad thing was that its force was too berserk. If you absorbed too much without any control, it would cause fierce shocks to the veins in a human body. Within the largest range that the body's strength could endure, whoever could preserve the longest, then that person would get more benefits. This moment, Su Luo really truly needed to thank that beautiful teacher of hers. Don't know if Grandmaster Rong Yin was a soothsayer. Before entering the secret roaming dragon territory, he had forcibly upgraded Su Luo's body's strength to 9th rank. It was also because of this, the benefits that Su Luo got from the spirit river were more obvious. If it was according to the strength of Su Luo's body before, now, Su Luo probably couldn't even cry. Because before, her body's strength was too weak. If she entered, she wouldn't be able to stay for a cup of tea's time before retreating. Wouldn't that be entering a mountain of treasure and coming out empty? While Su Luo was rejoicing in her heart, she gradually relaxed and entered the state of cultivation. Chapter 1727. This disappearance will be long 3. However, before she could enter this kind of exceptionally advantageous state, she heard a disturbing voice sounded out from below. Oh heavens, such rich spirit force. In the end, what's going on? Look in midair. There is actually a river suspended there. This python is about 100 meters long. It's at least above commander rank, right? The voices that kept sucking in cold breaths of air came again and again. Hearing these voices, Su Luo was somewhat annoyed in her heart. These 3 people were Dongfang Xian, Luo Haoming and Liao Chen without a doubt. Could this be the rumored spirit river from legends? Dongfang Xian rubbed his chin. Lifting his eyes to look at the spirit river suspended in mid-air, a greedy color flashed through his eyes. He followed the spirit force and come over here. Moreover, place with the richest spirit force came from this spirit river that hanged in mid-air in front of his eyes. Hearing Dongfang Xian's words, both Liao Chen and Luo Haoming's eyes gave off light. Their eyes flickered with golden lights as they stared at above. Will there be any danger? Luo Haoming cautiously asked. Now Dongfang Xian only sneered. Danger? Did you not see that python in front of you? That's the danger, but it had already been eradicated by Nangong Luyin. A python with such strength, in that group, only Nangong Luyin was capable of dealing with it. So with one guess, Dongfang Xian got it about right. The corner of Liao Chen's mouth hooked into a sneer. With Nangong Luyin in front getting rid of things for us, really saved us a lot of trouble. Exactly right? Dongfang Xian sneered repeatedly. If it were not for Nangong Luyin taking the lead and getting rid of that python, the 3 of them wouldn't have a way to get close to this spirit river. Oh. Thinking up to here, Dongfang Xian smiled coldly again and said to the 2 people, "Let's go." His words hadn't faded when his figure started to rise from the ground, quickly shooting towards the spirit river. Su Luo's group was all in the bottom of the river, each of them cultivating. So when Dongfang Xian's group flew up, they only saw an endless peaceful river surface without the tiniest bit of waves. Such peaceful water surface. Dongfang Xian mumbled to himself. What are you waiting for? Quickly go down, ah. Sensing the rich spirit force that soared to the sky was so close, Liao Chen was so excited that both of his legs trembled. His eyes gave off a golden light. He didn't have time to speak. With one direct leap, he entered into the spirit river. But in the next instant, Liao Chen ate a lot of bitterness. The surface of the spirit river was peaceful without a wave, but once you enter the river, you will feel that violently surging force of impact. Liao Chen jumped in without any preparation. Under that intense attack, suddenly, a burst of blood and qi rolled over, and he almost died. Idiot. The corner of Dongfang Xian's mouth hooked into a cold sneer. The reason why he stood there motionless was because he was certain Liao Chen wouldn't be calm, and would become his errant boy. After learning the lesson from Liao Chen's mistake, Dongfang Xian's actions became a lot more cautious. One only saw him condense all his spirit force to protect his entire body. Soon after, his figure slowly entered into the bottom of the river. Although the forces of impact was large, it was still within the range he was able to endure. Dongfang Xian didn't have time to think too much before tightly closing both eyes and sinking into the selfless state of cultivation. Not far away, Su Luo frowned slightly. Don't know whether it was her misconception. She actually sensed a very strange change. Su Luo felt that the speed of her absorbing spirit force reduced at a pace the naked eye could see, because the spirit force she was able to absorb was being drawn out at a fast pace. She sensed the spirit force in all directions, including around her body, all rushed to Dongfang Xian's position. At this moment, Dongfang Xian's face had a slight smile. His entire person seemed to be bathed in sunshine. He was contentedly and proudly absorbing the spirit force rushing towards him from all directions. Chapter 1728. Bird's Nest 1. In the end, what was going on? Su Luo's heart was slightly anxious. If this kind of situation wasn't blocked, not only would the benefit she get be reduced, the benefit Dongfang Xian got would be several folds greater. If this thing disappeared for longer, it was very hard to say to what degree Dongfang Xian would grow to. If it was that Dongfang Xian could only maintain this state for a short while, then Su Luo would be able to endure it. But ever since Su Luo noticed Dongfang Xian's situation, the bizarre change on his body hadn't changed from then. Su Luo watched as he rose to commander rank. In the end, what was going on? Su Luo's brows furrowed tightly. Her consciousness spread out in all directions. Ziyan and Bei Chening had already entered a selfless state, so they had no sense of affairs in the external world. Nangong Luyan was also like this, as if he completely wasn't aware of Dongfang Xian's change. After observing the situation around and below, Su Luo once again looked towards Dongfang Xian. The area Dongfang Xian entered was very close to Su Luo, so its influence was felt the greatest by Su Luo. But it didn't seriously affect other people. Su Luo helplessly sighed in secret. Dongfang Xian's cultivation was clearly higher than hers. So if she made a move, her chances of failure were great. In any case, this river had a lot of spirit force. Although she wasn't resigned, Su Luo had no choice but to choose to fall back. Just when Su Luo decided to withdraw from here and find a place further from Dongfang Xian, suddenly, a familiar voice came from her mind. Just going to avoid it like this? The little stone's voice contained a trace of ridicule. Then what else? Mount a sneak attack? Su Luo felt this was not worth it. If her movement was too great, she would even affect Nangong Luyan and them. So even if they were to fight, they still needed to wait until getting ashore to fight. Idiot! Who said you need to fight? The little stone almost blew his top. Su Luo's face was full of bewilderment as she spread out her hands to say. Then you say what to do. In any case, she had no methods. Don't you always like to give people a taste of their own medicine? Clearly you have a treasure. If you don't use it now, then until what time will you wait until to use it? The little stone almost got internal injuries from being angry at Su Luo's dull attitude. Treasure. What treasure? How was it that she didn't know? Just when Su Luo was puzzling over this, a round yellow crystal was tossed out from her space. It appeared an arm's length away from in front of Su Luo. Seeing the yellow-colored and rice field-shaped crystal, Su Luo had a slight reaction as she weakly asked, what kind of thing is it? She simply didn't seem to have any impression of this thing. The little stone gave an irascible cold humph. You have so many treasures, you toss the entire shelf of treasures into the space without even looking at it. Of course you wouldn't know. Hiccup. Su Luo was howled at until her brain ached dully. So, it turned out to be a reward from the first challenge. But like the little stone had said, there were simply too many treasures from that challenge, and afterwards she was incomparably busy. So she didn't have time to carefully examine the usage for these treasures. This is called absorbing spirit crystal. This was the first time the little stone saw Su Luo's blank and confused gaze. He knew she just knew nothing about it and said, depressed, to say it frankly, it will help you quickly absorb spirit force. You are saying, Su Luo pointed at Dongfang Xian not far away, on his body is there. You blindly guessed right, look on top of his head. The little stone hinted at Su Luo. Based on the little stone's tip, Su Luo hastily looked at the top of Dongfang Xian's head. With one glance, she almost laughed out loud. Chapter 1729, Bird's Nest 2. Before, she actually didn't notice that on top of Dongfang Xian's head was a small piece of yellow-colored paste-like thing. It was roughly about the size of a fist. At this moment, it was giving off heat and spirals of smoke. Did you see it clearly? The little stone humphed twice. But there was a huge meaning in his humph. Hearing this, Su Luo's heart suddenly became a bit cold. What do you want to do? She had a very bad feeling about this. Learn well from Dongfang Xian. The little stone said concisely. What? Su Luo couldn't hold back the cough. That yellow paste-like thing on Dongfang Xian's head was only about the size of a fist. It actually gave off steam, but it looked as if he had a snow pear on his head. But the thing in front of her, what could it count as? It was about the size of a bird's nest and extremely yellow in color. Moreover, it really was in the shape of a rice field. On its very top, it was still very pointed. Can I not? Su Luo wanted to cry but lacked the tears. If she had known it was going to be like this earlier, she would rather avoid Dongfang Xian and keep far away. You cannot want it. The little stone had a tone of very easy to discuss the matter. If you don't want to absorb it, then wait until Dongfang Xian has absorbed all the spirit force around you until nothing is left. Then wait for Dongfang Xian to advance, whether to absorb or not you choose. Su Luo sighed in a depressed manner. The little stone already said the matter to this extent. How else would she pick ah? As a result, Su Luo could only slowly extend her slender arm and slowly grip that lump of disappointingly flashy thing. Put it on top of your head. The little stone had a taut expression as he solemnly instructed. Oh, Su Luo wanted to cry but lacked the tears, and hesitated once again. In the end, she took a deep glance at Dongfang Xian, took a deep breath, with the attitude of tossing down a broken jar. She placed that yellow lump of something on her head. This time, it looked as if Su Luo had a cone-like lump on her head, or some such. Now you can cultivate. The little stone tried hard to maintain his taut face, but his complexion was very red from choking it back. The corner of his eyes and brows had difficulty suppressing his desire to laugh his head off. His whole body was trembling from holding back. In the end, the little stone couldn't contain it anymore, and howled with laughter in Su Luo's space. Su Luo couldn't help but cast him a supercilious glance. She could completely imagine how comical and outlandish her appearance was right now. Fortunately, Bei Chening and the others were in the state of cultivation, and didn't have time to open their eyes to look at her. Otherwise, those people would probably fall down from laughing. Su Luo silently cursed the little stone in her heart. Afterwards, she silently closed her eyes and entered the state of cultivation. Ever since she put the absorbing spirit crystal on her head, Su Luo seemed to have an enlightened feeling. That kind of clearness had a trace of slight chill, and a feeling of vigor that flooded her entire head. Su Luo could clearly sense the spirit force in all directions violently rolling towards her, like a surging flood whizzing by, continuous and non-stop. Such a huge amount of spirit force nearly drowned Su Luo. But very quickly, Su Luo returned to her senses and put away her ecstatic feelings. She quickly transformed the outside spirit force into a form she could absorb. Su Luo could clearly sense the changes inside her body. If it was said that her chi storage area was like a wooden cask, she, who was originally at middle of 9th rank, the spirit force in the wooden cask was less than half. But in the wake of these spirit force frantically pouring in, that wooden cask seemed to be filling with water, raising up at a speed that the naked eye could see. Inch by inch, it was very clear and obvious. It must be said that if the wooden cask was full, Su Luo could be promoted to the 10th rank. This matter that seemed inconceivable to other people actually occurred in Su Luo's body. If they were to see this scene, they would have fainted from the scare, okay? Because they might not even raise it a little bit in a year. But Su Luo actually, at a speed the naked eye could see, went up inch by inch. Chapter 1730 Bird's Nest 3. This kind of cultivation speed, simply put, only miraculous could be used to describe it. Su Luo was also stupefied by this kind of cultivation speed, but very quickly, she returned to her senses and continued to frantically cultivate. Because she knew such cultivation speed was against nature, and the heavens had always been balanced. So she knew, the time she had wouldn't be long. She must make the most of every critical minute and second. Suddenly, Su Luo's mind moved. Because within such a short time, she discovered her dantian was full of spirit force. If you were to make a comparison, then that was the huge wooden casket to be promoted to 10th rank, was full. This speed, Su Luo was so pleasantly surprised that she almost cried. If she didn't miscalculate, now less than 2 hours had passed, right? She actually was about to be promoted to 10th rank? This was too much of a blessing, okay? Even if she had to wear this rice field-shaped cone, it was worth it, okay? Su Luo simply loved it beyond imagination. If she was given enough time, could she continue to advance? From 10th rank to commander rank, from commander rank to saint rank, from saint rank to monarch rank. Just when Su Luo was feeling blessed and having beautiful dreams, Dongfang Xian's deep and sinister pair of eyes suddenly opened. His bloodthirsty eyes stared at Su Luo with frost, unblinkingly and unwaveringly staring at her. Because he could clearly sense that his cultivation speed was decreasing. After investigating the cause, Dongfang Xian saw that bird nest on Su Luo's head. Absorbing spirit crystal. Dong Fengxian said between gritted teeth, stressing each word. His complexion was ashen as he stared at Su Luo. His eyes were full of hatred. How could she have an absorbing spirit crystal? The more Dong Fengxian thought about it, the angrier he became. Originally, Dong Fengxian thought his luck was the best. Before, when he left after being angered to death by Su Luo and Nangong Luyan, he had accidentally stepped on the entrance to a cavern and fell all the way down. In the cave he picked up a bag. In the bag there were space bags, absorbing spirit crystal and other things. Dong Fengxian originally thought only he had this absorbing spirit crystal. But he never expected that Su Luo also had one. Moreover, her absorbing spirit crystal was much larger than his. Its purity and quality was also much better. Compared to Su Luo's absorbing spirit crystal, his was just like garbage goods. When Su Luo advanced to the 10th rank, all the spirit force in the world rushed towards her. The undercurrent in the bottom of the spirit river surged up, forming spirit force whirlpools, one after another. Hateful. Dong Fengxian's fist clenched tightly. Dong Fengxian never thought Su Luo's aptitude was this good. In such a short period of time, she was promoted to 10th rank. If he didn't stop this girl, she would definitely get promoted to commander rank without a doubt. Could it be that he had to watch helplessly as she advanced? Dong Fengxian saw that bird nest on Su Luo's head, and greed flashed through his eyes. After going through the cultivation just now, only a fingernail slice of his absorbing spirit crystal remained. It wouldn't be able to help him. However, Dong Fengxian stared fixedly at that thing on Su Luo's head, and secretly schemed in his heart. If he grabbed that absorbing spirit crystal on Su Luo's head, then he would definitely advance to the saint rank in a short time. At that time, Nangong Luyan definitely wouldn't be his opponent. As long as Nangong Luyan was dead, then. Dong Fengxian's malicious gaze stared at the blurry figures, Bei Qining, Ziyan, Su Luo. These three definitely wouldn't survive 3 moves against him. Therefore, looking at Su Luo's head, a killing intent shone from Dong Fengxian's eyes at this moment. Therefore he would get Su Luo's absorbing spirit crystal for sure. Chapter 1731. The one that will emerge as victor. 1. Dong Fengxian silently and stealthily approached Su Luo. His speed was very slow, with soft and quiet steps while holding his breath. He didn't give off a tiny bit of sound, let alone to say. He hid away the spirit power around him, so he didn't bring about any fluctuations in the spirit force. Right now, Su Luo was completely immersed in joy and the spirit force that the absorbing spirit crystal brought her to frantically advance. She didn't sense that viper-like figure gradually getting closer to her. Not only was Su Luo full of joy, moreover, most of her attention was on cultivating. Therefore, it was hard for her to sense Dong Fengxian's actions. Dong Fengxian wasn't foolish. He didn't use a direct line to draw close to Su Luo, rather he wound around in a circle. In a roundabout way, he moved to a position behind Su Luo, then slowly drew close to her. One step, another step, finally, when he was 20 meters away from Su Luo, his footsteps slowly stopped. His sinister lips hooked into an apathetic sneer. Su Luo, absorbing spirit crystal is mine. Dong Fengxian laughed secretly in his heart. To get absorbing spirit crystal, and not let Su Luo give off any noise, the best way was to assassinate Su Luo. Moreover, he must succeed in one strike. Otherwise, if Nangong Luyan was to discover it, Dong Fengxian wouldn't be able to handle the consequences. After making this decision in his heart, the gaze Dong Fengxian used to look at Su Luo had an even stronger killing intent. A distance of 20 meters for him was merely a blink of an eye's time, so he didn't need to face the risk of being sensed by Su Luo to advance forward. Right now, Su Luo was completely submerged in the joy of cultivation, and unaware that a viper was heading towards her with his bloody mouth wide open. She only knew that she must do her best to grasp every minute to cultivate and cultivate again. To advance and advance some more. Because Su Luo knew that in this lifetime, there might never be such an opportunity to advance so quickly. She had a premonition that when she had completely absorbed that thing on her head, it might be possible for her to advance all the way to saint rank. That was the saint rank Ah. Even Nangong Luyan was only at the commander rank Ah. while she could break through to saint rank in one move. How amazing a matter was this! Just when Su Luo's saliva was about to flow out while in the midst of her beautiful daydream, a clear, cold and arrogant tone with a trace of teasing sounded in Su Luo's head. Still daydreaming? The little stone's mouth hooked into a ghost of a smile. Hiss, being awoken from the beautiful dream, Su Luo unhappily glared at the little stone. If you have words to say, spit it out. If you want to fart, then let it out. Right now, this young lady's time is more precious than the spring night of an honorable daughter from a rich family. Didn't you see that I'm almost at commander rank? In fact, Su Luo's words carried some exaggerated elements. No matter how in defiance of nature this spirit river and absorbing spirit crystal were, under the situation of just being promoted to 10th rank, how could she get promoted to commander rank in less than 2 hours? Little Stone unhappily rolled his eyes at Su Luo. Your little life is about to be gone and still have thoughts of being promoted. You must have a life to enjoy it first. Hearing this, Su Luo's heart suddenly was startled. Although the words Little Stone spoke were never nice to hear, but he had a strong point that others didn't have. That was, he wouldn't lie. Since he said there was danger to her life, then her life absolutely was in danger. Su Luo released a part of her consciousness, and immediately sensed that faint figure not far behind her. Dongfang Xian. That person smiling coldly at her with eyes full of killing intent. Wasn't it Dongfang Xian? Su Luo's eyes suddenly contracted, because she sensed that this time, Dongfang Xian had the thought of must kill her. What's going on? Has Dongfang Xian gone crazy? Such a great opportunity and he wouldn't go properly cultivate, but to come and kill her. Chapter 1732, the one that will emerge as victor, 2. But having just finished saying this, Su Luo sensed the emptiness on top of Dongfang Xian's head. Immediately she understood. He used up his absorbing spirit crystal. So he would come and steal yours, idiot. The little stone used the gaze of beyond saving to look at Su Luo. At this moment, Su Luo's brows were tightly wrinkled. Bei Chening and the others were using all their strength to cultivate and get promoted. If she started to fight with Dongfang Xian, it would absolutely affect them. Recklessly interrupting them would lead to serious recoil of madness. This was absolutely not a scene Su Luo wanted to see. Dongfang Xian could completely disregard Li Aochen and Luo Haoming, but Su Luo couldn't disturb Bei Chenying's group. What to do? Su Luo's mind quickly turned, searching for a way to break this pitfall. The little stone could come out, but the little stone had the same strength as Dongfang Xian. At that time, the disturbance they created would be even greater. The more Su Luo pondered, the angrier she was at Dongfang Xian. At this critical time, to disturb other people's cultivation and advancement was simply like the enmity of wiping out the entire family. However, before Su Luo thought of a way, Dongfang Xian had already launched an attack. A tiny soft sound was heard before Su Luo could return to her senses. The long sword in Dongfang Xian's hand was mere inches from Su Luo. Such a fast sword. The white light flashed so fast that a person almost couldn't react. Clang! Before Su Luo could move, Cheng-Ying's sword, that had already condensed out a spirit, subconsciously rushed up to meet that ice-cold sword. The weapons directly clashed head-on. Immediately, sparks flew in all directions, and the spirit force in the surroundings surged, giving rise to waves of chaos. Su Luo noticed that not far away, Bei Chening was affected by the fluctuations in the spirit force and directly spit out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Su Luo hated Dongfang Xian even more. If she had known earlier, she would have Nangong Luyin kill Dongfang Xian earlier to end all the troubles. So that he was unlikely to disturb people at a critical moment right now. Don't you just want the absorbing spirit crystal? This matter, we can discuss it. Su Luo pointed at the absorbing spirit crystal on her head, and smilingly looked at Dongfang Xian. Right now, the most important thing was for her to stall for time. A trace of mockery flashed through Dongfang Xian's eyes. Absorbing spirit crystal? Okay, give the absorbing spirit crystal to me. Dongfang Xian's body moved up and flashed at a fast speed toward Su Luo. His 5 long fingers suddenly grabbed towards the top of Su Luo's head. At this time, Su Luo lifted her eyes and could clearly see the killing intent that flashed through his eyes. In an instant, Su Luo realized what he wanted wasn't just the absorbing spirit crystal. He still wanted to carry out the scheme of killing two birds with one stone and take her life. Su Luo wanted to retreat, but she couldn't use teleport in the bottom of this spirit river, so she simply couldn't retreat. There was no other way. Looked like she could only take out Elder Ancestor Mo. This thought turned in Su Luo's mind and she made the decision. However, at this moment, one only heard a soft crash sound echo. In the next instant, Su Luo's beautiful eyes opened wide, because she suddenly saw Dongfang Xian, who was very close to her, was kicked away by a foot. Kicked him to fly out far away. Didn't need to turn her head, and Su Luo knew that the person who had such formidable power, besides Nangong Luyin, there was no one else. Slender arms wrapped around Su Luo's slender waistline. A clear and cold tone that carried traces of deep concern sounded by her ear. "Girl, are you injured?" Su Luo's eyes had a trace of deep concern. "I'm okay, but you?" The two people were very close to each other. Su Luo lifted her head and could feel the warm breath coming from his nose. And also because of this, Su Luo could sense the chaotic aura coming from Nangong Liuyun's body. "You were about to advance to the saint rank, ah?" Now like this. Su Luo looked at him anxiously, with distress in her beautiful eyes, and also annoyance. Chapter 1733. The one that will emerge as victor 3. She was very distressed for him. Clearly he could advance, but he forcibly suppressed it for her. This would have a very bad effect on his body. What upset her was that he could always help her at the most critical time. And every time, she would bring trouble at the most critical time for him. "It's nothing, first solve this scourge." Nangong Liuyun's clear and cold gaze seemed to be saturated with frost, flashing with an icy cold light. His long, slender and straight legs, step by step, walked towards Dongfang Xian. Dongfang Xian had flown out far away from being kicked. But as a whole, his strength had advanced to commander rank, and he didn't cut such a sorry figure as before. Dongfang Xian's hand covered his chest as he slowly stood up. Nangong Liuyun's icy cold gaze stared at him, and Dongfang Xian's gaze was also staring fixedly at Nangong Liuyun. Suddenly, a crazed tint flashed through Dongfang Xian's eyes. If he had cultivated using that absorbing spirit crystal on Su Luo's head, Dongfang Xian was certain he could kill Nangong Liuyun. But now he simply didn't have a grasp on this. However now, Nangong Liuyun clearly had a murderous aura. Dongfang Xian knew that if this time he doesn't use his trump card, he would die under Nangong Liuyun's hand. "Third junior brother, why must you put such a hard pressure between us?" Dongfang Xian covered his chest, saying this while he retreated, trying to stall for time. "Why do you intentionally stir up trouble time and time again, bringing about your own destruction?" Nangong Liuyun's tone was very soft, so soft like a feather. But it gave people a terrifying feeling of having their blood run cold. Dongfang Xian could feel the fear rapidly leaping up from the soles of his feet. It leaped to his chest, then spreading to the forelimbs and hundreds of bones in his body. This made his body unable to suppress the slight trembling. Dongfang Xian laughed coldly. "You really no longer care about the friendship from the same sect?" Nangong Liuyun's eyes unblinkingly stared at him, as he drew nearer step by step. "If master knows, he absolutely won't let you get away with it." Dongfang Xian slowly retreated back, his eyes flashing with a trace of panic. Nangong Liuyun calmly approached him, his gaze and expression still the same as before. "Didn't you say you were going to leave me for Su Luo to personally deal with? If you kill me now, Su Luo's heart would have this unresolved knot forever. Could it be you won't even consider her?" Dongfang Xian tossed out one excuse after another in front of them. "You really have a lot of nonsense to say." Nangong Liuyun had a demonically charming smile. His smile was enchanting and beautiful. One only saw him stop, and his slender white as jade palm turned over, slowly beginning to form a seal. A golden light seal formed from at the bottom of his hand, finally converging to become a ball of gold light. The ball of gold light gave off deep red-hot rays of light, reflecting Dongfang Xian's deathly pale face. Dongfang Xian sucked in a breath of air. It seemed he had no choice but to show the trump card he had hidden for so long. "Dragon King command, come out." Just when Nangong Luyun shot that ball of gold light in an explosive manner towards Dongfang Xian, a gigantic shadow of a dragon roared, appearing behind Dongfang Xian's back. Roar! The gigantic shadow of a dragon gave a fierce howl, shaking the entire spirit river, giving off buzzing sounds. Waves of water surged up violently, rolling up thousands of piles of snow-like waves. One only saw the dragon open its mouth wide and swallow that ball of golden light Nangong Luyun shot out. Actually swallowed it, Su Luo mumbled in disbelief. Before, what exactly did Dongfang Xian encounter? How was it he had so many treasures, sending one out after another like an ant you couldn't kill? Really was hateful. Su Luo's voice seemed to have woken up the quiet atmosphere. Dongfang Xian's finger pointed at Su Luo and loudly commanded, "Eat her." Dongfang Xian had an attitude of, even if he was to die, he would take Su Luo to be buried with him. Chapter 1734, Cat Chasing a Mouse 1. Don't know for what reason this gigantic dragon would listen so obediently to Dongfang Xian's orders. Simply was, wherever he pointed, the dragon would hit there. Dongfang Xian ordered it to attack Su Luo, and it didn't stop for a moment. Its neck stretched out, tongue already appearing over Su Luo's forehead. Such quick speed. Even Nangong Luyun couldn't react. When he reacted, the gigantic dragon's tongue had already rolled towards Su Luo's head. No. Watching helplessly as Su Luo's head was about to leave her neck, Nangong Luyun was scared and furious at the same time. A feeling of panic rushed towards his forehead like the tide. He subconsciously smashed a fist heavily towards the gigantic dragon, trying to stop its action. But the gigantic dragon's speed was simply too fast. Although it rigidly received a fist from Nangong Luyun, but its tongue still rolled towards Su Luo, head. Ha! After the shadow over her head scattered, Su Luo extended a hand to touch her own neck. It was still actually standing steadily on her head. Just now, she was scared witless. She even forgot to release Elder Ancestor Mo. But where was the absorbing spirit crystal? After Su Luo returned to her senses, she was almost stupefied, because that pile of yellow on top of her head actually disappeared. When she lifted her head to look at that gigantic dragon, Su Luo's mood immediately became complicated. Because she could clearly see the gigantic dragon's mouth was moving, clearly, it was swallowing something. Su Luo subconsciously shouted towards Nangong Luyun. Quickly snatch the absorbing spirit crystal back. She only had such a little bit remaining. If it was swallowed by the gigantic dragon, then wouldn't her beautiful dream of advancing come to a sudden end? Su Luo felt her entire heart was about to break into pieces. Nangong Luyun, seeing Su Luo was safe, his heart that was tightly clenched could be put down. However, without waiting for Nangong Luyun to launch an attack, the gigantic dragon had already swooped down towards him. The gigantic dragon's strength was formidable, was practically evenly matched with Nangong Luyun. Then, if you were to add its valiant strong body, Nangong Luyun might not necessarily win over it. But Nangong Luyun wasn't a master that was easily bullied. If he didn't need to go save Su Luo at the critical juncture, now he might even be saint rank. In this struggle between strong experts, Su Luo simply couldn't insert in. She could only be deeply concerned and retreat a bit further, so as not to split Nangong Luyun's attention on her. In the beginning, both sides were evenly matched, but in the wake of the battle progressing deeper, the worry in Su Luo's eyes became even stronger, because she discovered that right now, Nangong Luyun was actually retreating, step by step. He only had the strength to block and no strength to retaliate. The reason was, Su Luo really had the urge to spit out blood, because she realized that the absorbing spirit crystal was swallowed by the gigantic dragon. Therefore, the gigantic dragon's strength soared at a fast speed that the naked eye could see. And under this situation, the longer it took the more strength he used up. Nangong Luyun was actually at a disadvantage. Su Luo simply wanted to cry but lacked the tears. She knew, ever since her absorbing spirit crystal entered the gigantic dragon's mouth, she had no way of getting it back. If it was really like this, then she could forget it. But the gigantic dragon's strength actually became a threat to Nangong Luyun's safety. Just when Su Luo was staring fixedly at the battle situation that was getting worse and worse, Dong Fengxian's figure was silently approaching Su Luo. Loathsome girl, this time, see where you can run to. Ha ha ha. Dong Fengxian stood about 3 meters from Su Luo, his shady gaze flickering with a sinister smirk, as he stared at her in an ice-cold manner. Dong Fengxian. The always calm without a ripple Su Luo was now itching to tear Dong Fengxian into pieces. If it weren't for him to come out and disturb the situation, how could the current dangerous situation occur? Chapter 1735, Cat Chasing a Mouse 2. Loathsome girl, now you only have 2 choices. Dong Fengxian never had this chance of raising his eyebrows to blow off steam. He proudly slanted a glance at Su Luo. Want me to do it or you'll take your own life instead? Cold light converged in Su Luo's eyes. Don't need to look. Nangong Luyin can't even save himself right now, let alone others. He can't save you, ha ha ha. The more Dong Fengxian thought about it, the more pleased he was and the more crazed his laughter became. Ever since he saw Su Luo, Dong Fengxian had always eaten losses in front of her. Before there was her master protecting her, now in secret roaming dragon territory, she had Nangong Luyin protecting her. To the extent that his cultivation seemed in vain as he couldn't do anything to Su Luo, who was weaker in strength. But now, the gods finally opened their eyes, at last giving him an unprecedented opportunity. Dong Fengxian, you are just this certain you can kill me? Su Luo's lips hooked into a smile that wasn't a smile. Don't tell me you still have a trump card on your body? Dong Fengxian's smile was feminine, nefarious and charming, sinisterly strange. His gaze gave off a cold light as he stared unblinkingly at Su Luo. The smile at the corner of his mouth made people's hairs stand up on end. What if I said I have one? The fist at Su Luo's side tightened. Dong Fengxian had absorbed the entire absorbing spirit crystal. His strength was originally pretty good, had risen dramatically. Now don't know if the little stone could beat him in a fight. Su Luo's gaze swept by Li Aochen and Luo Haoming, who had stopped cultivating and stood behind Dong Fengxian. Since you have it, then take it out and let us have a look. Dong Fengxian walked towards Su Luo, step by step. He moved forward a step, and Su Luo couldn't help but move back a step. The situation was completely in Dong Fengxian's grasp. Dong Fengxian's mouth had a cold smile of victory within his grasp. His smile was ice-cold and demonic, specks of killing intent flashing from his eyes. At this moment, as long as he moved, he definitely wouldn't let Su Luo live. Master! Su Luo suddenly looked with a pleasantly surprised expression towards Dong Fengxian's back. Her smile was full of excitement. Dong Fengxian suddenly remembered the lesson Grandmaster Rong Yin taught him before entering the secret roaming dragon territory. His heart suddenly trembled. When he returned to his senses, Su Luo, that loathsome girl, had already run far away. Dong Fengxian's face became gloomy in an instant as he said furiously, "Quickly chase." Finished speaking, his speed exploded out as he shot forward like a cheetah. Li Aochen, hearing this, very obediently wanted to chase after. But Bei Chening was a step faster, and had already blocked in front of him. With both arms crossed before him, he smiled narrow-mindedly and provocatively. "Brotherly, don't leave yet. Get out of the way." Li Aochen didn't even think before making a move against Bei Chening. But Bei Chening wasn't someone to be trifled with. Although before, his strength was slightly weaker than Li Aochen, but who told him to have such good luck and enter the Spirit River a bit earlier than Li Aochen? Through the baptism of the Spirit River, Bei Chenying's strength wasn't necessarily weaker than Li Aochen's. As a result, since after Nangong Luyin started to battle the gigantic dragon, Bei Chening and Li Aochen also started to fight. Luo Haoming looked at the battles in front of him, then looked again up ahead. Dong Fengxian's figure had already disappeared from there. Seeing this, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. Ziyin calmly stood in front of him with determination. Her cold eyes looked at him indifferently. Although she didn't say anything, but that meaning was self-evident. If Luo Haoming dared to chase after them, even if Ziyin couldn't beat him, she still would risk her life to try to stop him. Luo Haoming, seeing this, repeatedly smiled bitterly. Although he seemed to be on Dong Fengxian's team, but slowly, his heart started to be more partial towards Su Luo's side. Therefore, "Miss Ziyin, sit down and rest for a bit." Luo Haoming said in a friendly manner. Chapter 1736, Cat Chasing a Mouse 3, No Need. Ziyan had both hands crossed over her arms, her gaze unblinkingly staring at Luo Haoming. Ziyan knew that if she ran over to help Bei Qining, then this brief equilibrium would be broken. At that time, even if Luo Haoming wasn't willing, he would still join and help Li Aoqin's side. Therefore, Ziyan bided her time, wholeheartedly watched Luo Haoming. Ziyan was really worried about Nangong Luyin and Bei Qining, while also worried about Su Luo who had run and disappeared. Her brows were slightly puckered up. Although she knew Su Luo had the little stone as a trump card, but recalling Dongfang Xian's strength that rose drastically, Ziyan couldn't help but to start worrying. She knew that Su Luo running far away wasn't only because she didn't want Nangong Luyin to be worried. At the same time, she wanted to bring Dongfang Xian, that lunatic, away, so as to avoid getting her and Bei Qining injured. Right now, as Ziyan expected, Su Luo's situation wasn't good. Before, Su Luo grabbed a thread of change to run out, but Dongfang Xian's reaction was also very fast, and he immediately started to chase. So the distance between the two was very close. Right now, Su Luo's heart was full of blame. She really didn't understand why she couldn't use her teleport. If she could use it, don't mention 1 Dongfang Xian, even 10 Dongfang Xian, she would have already shaken them off. But complaining was just complaining. Su Luo didn't dare to relax the pace of her feet. She displayed the spirit dance steps to the peak, because she could sense that Dongfang Xian was very close to her. As long as she slowed by a step, she would enter his range of attack. Loathsome girl, your speed isn't slow. When Dongfang Xian saw Su Luo run, his first reaction was nonplussed. But now he had the thrilling feeling of a cat trying to catch a mouse. Clearly, victory was in his grasp, while letting the opponent feel that there was slight chance to live by letting them run nonstop. This kind of evil taste made Dongfang Xian's heart become even more joyful. After leaving the Spirit River, Su Luo directly ran north, because she knew the maze for the 4th challenge was in that direction. As long as she ran into the maze, then Dongfang Xian would have no way to deal with her. Able not to expose the little stone, Su Luo still planned not to reveal him as much as possible. Under the soles of her feet was soft snow, hindering Su Luo's speed. But when Su Luo saw up ahead, a trace of hope rose in her heart. Not far up ahead, a dense green color swayed, making Su Luo's eyes dizzy. This also made her heart full of joy and hope. That was a primitive forest, the primitive forest that hid the sky and covered the earth. After seeing the map, Su Luo knew that as long as she passed through this primitive forest, she would have reached the entrance to the maze. And the trees in the primitive forest hid the sky and covered the earth. The environment was very dark, the degree one could see was very low. If Dongfang Xian wanted to find her, he would waste a lot of energy. As a result, Su Luo took a deep breath, and put all her spirit force into her feet. Her speed suddenly soared. In one split second, she put a long distance between her and Dongfang Xian. Loathsome girl. So it turned out you were using all your strength. A sinister ray of light flashed through Dongfang Xian's eyes. A malevolent and terrifying smile appeared on his mouth. His ice-cold voice slowly sounded. However, if you feel you can escape my pursuit just because of this, then you are gravely mistaken. Now, I declare that the time to pull up the net is here. Rushing into the primitive forest, Su Luo slowly gave a breath of relief. However, before she could inhale again, a sinister figure appeared in front of her. Seeing this figure, Su Luo's eyes shrank. Dongfang Xian. How did his speed become so fast all of a sudden? To appear in front of her in such a short while. As if he could see Su Luo's puzzlement, Dongfang Xian gave a cold laugh. Loathsome girl, you can conserve strength, don't tell me I don't know how to do it too? The implication was that if he wanted to capture Su Luo, he would very easily succeed. Now, it was merely a cat playing with a mouse and nothing more. Chapter 1737. A place to hide 1. Although Su Luo's mood wasn't steady, however, her expression was still as calm as water. One only saw a faint smile blossom on her face. Dongfang Xian, do you really think you can kill me? The smile in Dongfang Xian's eyes were deep as the ocean, His hands were looped in front of his chest as he calmly raised an eyebrow. Why? Could it be you still have another move? Su Luo just smiled and didn't speak. Seeing the calm Su Luo, Dongfang Xian frowned slightly. Could it be that this loathsome girl actually had another move saved? The originally calm and composed Dongfang Xian, who had victory in his grasp, was now afraid of moving because of fearing an unexpected result. His gaze also had a trace of doubt when looking at Su Luo. Whether I have another move or not will depend on if you believe it or not. Su Luo, with a ghost of a smile, looked at him. A cold intent flashed through Dongfang Xian's eyes. Now Nangong Luyan was tangled up with the gigantic dragon. And he finally hunted down Su Luo, this loathsome girl, after great difficulty. Could it be he would abandon his actions just with several doubtful sentences from her? The corner of Dongfang Xian's mouth pulled. Tauntingly and mockingly, he said to Su Luo, "Give you a chance to leave some last words." Su Luo's expression was calm as before. The tip of her eyes and mouth were full of smiles. The person who should leave the last words, shouldn't it be you? Loathsome girl, with death at hand, your mouth is still tough. Since it's like this, then let me send you to heaven. Dongfang Xian's expression was sinister, and he moved before he finished speaking. A countless number of ice thorns exploded out from the ground. Rising up, within a half-meter range, the world froze over in an instant. Dongfang Xian moved against Su Luo without the slightest hesitation. And at this moment, Su Luo didn't choose to flee. Instead, she rushed towards Dongfang Xian. Her speed was fast as an artillery shell. Su Luo's reaction made Dongfang Xian suspicious. Because of this, his movement was slightly sluggish. When Su Luo was only 10 meters from Dongfang Xian, he finally moved. One only saw his body rush quickly towards Su Luo. In a flash, the two figures crossed. But the instant they crossed, Dongfang Xian's palm contained a world-shaking endless strength, just like a great scourge in the world attacking towards Su Luo. But Su Luo also moved. When they crossed, Chungying's sword silently flew out from Su Luo's arm and stabbed over. Several slight sword strikes flew towards Dongfang Xian's heart. Dongfang Xian felt his chest go slightly cold, but he already had preparation against Su Luo's weapon that appeared and disappeared unpredictably. So the wind from his palm slanted and directly hit the Chungying sword. The wind palm strike and Chungying sword met, giving off a violent whoosh sound. Su Luo could clearly hear the sound of pain that the Chungying sword gave off. Very clearly, Chungying's sword was at a disadvantage when confronting Dongfang Xian's attack head-on. Just when Dongfang Xian was feeling proud, he discovered that his pair of legs was bound up. He lowered his head and discovered a thick golden vein was tightly wrapped around his feet. Below his knees, his 2 feet were bound together to the extent he simply couldn't take a step. Loathsome girl, you really had some abilities. Dongfang Xian had a sinister sneer. You let me win, oh. Su Luo smilingly cupped her hand. Although she said you let me win, but when she lowered her head, a spherical object flew directly into Dongfang Xian's arm. Then, she immediately ran away. Although Dongfang Xian didn't see what Su Luo tossed into his arms, but he sensed it was fishy. Spirit pinball. It absolutely was a spirit pinball that hadn't exploded. Dongfang Xian didn't think, directly fished up that ball, and didn't even look before tossing it towards Su Luo's back. But the scene Dongfang Xian anticipated didn't occur. Chapter 1738. A place to hide too. On the contrary, when that spherical ball was about to reach Su Luo's back, it suddenly disappeared without reason. While Su Luo was fleeing, she even had the relaxed frame of mind to turn her head back and smile at Dongfang Xian. Her smile was dazzling as the morning sun. Brother Dongfang really has high eyesight. Don't even want the absorbing spirit crystal. Then I'll reluctantly accept it, oh. Su Luo left behind a bell-like cheerful laugh in a low voice. In an instant, she ran far, far away. Dongfang Xian was infuriated to the point of almost giving off smoke from his entire body. That actually wasn't a spirit pinball. If he had known it was an absorbing spirit crystal, how could Dongfang Xian return such a treasure back to Su Luo? Dongfang Xian's heart was wrathful and vexed at the same time. He wanted to chase but found that thick and solid golden vine was wound around his leg very tightly. Dongfang Xian was extremely angry. and his spirit aura increased sharply. One only heard a burst of pitter-patter sound. Soon after, the golden vine burst into pieces. It scattered and fell to the ground. The good thing was that this golden vine was a strip that the variant acacia tree cut off, so it didn't have much effect on the variant acacia tree's original body. Dongfang Xian originally thought that everything was within his control. But who knew that Su Luo, this loathsome girl, was craftier than a fox? Moreover, she had an endless amount of treasures. In one moment of carelessness, she was able to escape again. Abominable, hateful. The more Dongfang Xian thought about it, the angrier he got. His fist was clenched tightly. Although he was angered half to death, but his intellect was still there. So he immediately got up and went to chase after Su Luo. He didn't believe that in such a short period of time, Su Luo still could run out of his range. At this moment, Su Luo was using all her strength to run. All around was an endless primitive jungle, with no signs of human life. Dense, ancient trees that were tall, erect and reached to the clouds, full of lush greenery. Wherever the eyes could see, it was all dark green lush leaves. You simply couldn't see where this ended. A burst of cool breeze blew by the leaves in this sea of trees, giving rustling sounds. In this uninhibited forest, it gave people the terror of having one's blood run cold. But Su Luo didn't have the mind to worry about the dangers in the forest. From her point of view, the greatest danger came from behind her Dongfang Xian. Su Luo's figure quickly flitted across the forest. Her speed was very fast and she changed directions many times. She headed north in a roundabout way, going left then right, as if she was panicked when selecting the route. This made Dongfang Xian, who was chasing behind her, have to be more alert, because if he relaxed a bit, Su Luo would disappear without a trace. Watching as the distance between the two became closer and closer, and she still couldn't see the maze up ahead, a cold intent flashed through Su Luo's brows. From the first time she arrived in this world, Su Luo had experienced a countless number of being chased to be killed. She had experienced a countless number of times being surrounded by perils. She had focused wholeheartedly, wanting to be strong for one reason, and it was that one day when she became strong, she would be the master of her own destiny. Now must she be continued to be chased and killed? Su Luo slowly shook her head in her mind. Up ahead was a tall and erect ancient tree. The trunk was so thick that it would take 10 people to wrap around it. Thick branches and luxuriant leaves. Even if one was to hide a person, no one would discover it. All of a sudden, a trace of joy flashed through Su Luo's eyes. This tree. Su Luo discovered that this really huge tree already had signs it was dying. In fact, it is already dead. The little stone gave her an affirmative reply. Su Luo's heart was joyful. Cheng-Ying's sword slashed a gap on that trunk. Very quickly, a hole appeared in the tree that allowed one person to pass through. Su Luo flashed in. At the same time, the golden vine sealed up the tree with the original bark, making sure no changes could be seen. Moreover, the golden vine's consciousness entered this ancient tree and temporarily took over its fragmented consciousness, and resumed control of the tree's body. Chapter 1739. A place to hide 3. Just when Su Luo had finished hiding, Dongfang Xian's figure had already appeared in front of this ancient tree. Inside the ancient tree, it was pitch black like the night. Su Luo held her breath with rapt attention. She adjusted her body's functions to the slowest state. She even controlled her heartbeat to its weakest state. She withdrew all the spirit force into herself. Momentarily, Dongfang Xian couldn't sense that Su Luo had already hid. His body was like lightning. He quickly swept by and continued forward. But Su Luo knew the crisis hadn't been resolved. Because based on her understanding of Dongfang Xian, wanting to escape from his pursuit, it wasn't an easy matter. Sure enough, it was as Su Luo anticipated. Very quickly, Dongfang Xian's figure returned. Now his pair of eyes was like snow swords shooting in all directions. But the result wasn't the one he wished for. Because he couldn't find Su Luo. He actually lost Su Luo just like this after chasing her. Dongfang Xian was about to blow his top in his heart. Every time, when he was almost about to kill Su Luo, she could always escape the calamity. Every time it was like this. The more Dongfang Xian thought, the more unreconciled angrier he got. One fist hit towards the ancient tree in front of him. Su Luo's heart rose to her throat in an instant. Her thoughts continuously cried out bad luck. Because unexpectedly, the ancient tree Dongfangxian smashed towards was the one Su Luo was hiding in. One only heard a rumbling sound, and Dongfangxian's fist directly smashed in. And just at this critical moment, Su Luo's figure lowered, avoiding this disaster by a hair's breadth. Otherwise, Dongfangxian's fist's position was aimed right at Su Luo's heart. If this fist was to hit, wouldn't Su Luo's organs become meat pulp? Fortunately, this ancient tree was already under the variant acacia tree's control. So the variant acacia tree secretly communicated to Su Luo, telling her there was danger. Only because of this, she had the chance to avoid it. Otherwise, with her spirit senses shut down, she wouldn't have been able to sense the situation outside. Separated by a layer of tree bark, Dongting Wangyu simply couldn't have imagined that the Su Luo he was striving with all his might to find was only half a meter in front of him. After smashing this fist and venting some steam, Dongfangxian turned and was about to leave. After Dongfangxian left, Su Luo knew she couldn't stay here any longer, so she hurriedly walked out. But Dongfangxian hadn't left for long before his figure stopped. Su Luo's figure immediately stopped in place. Right now, she really was stuck between going in and retreating, because as long as she moved, Dongfangxian would discover her. But even though she was motionless, Dongfangxian still discovered her presence. As to how he discovered her, Su Luo gave a bit of thought and understood. So it turned out it was because of that fist. One might ask, based on Dongfangxian's current strength, how could his fist that hit the ancient tree only leave behind a small hole? Under normal circumstances, even if the ancient tree wasn't smashed into smithereens, at least, it should have been pulled up by the roots. Dongfangxian didn't think of the variant acacia tree controlling the ancient tree's body. He also never thought that Su Luo would be so lucky as to avoid that fist. He just felt that this ancient tree trunk had some problems, and wanted to turn back to study it properly. But he had just turned around and met with Su Luo's eyes. Loathsome girl. Dongfangxian became excited in an instant. So excited that the finger he had pointed at Su Luo trembled nonstop. At this moment, Su Luo calmly smiled and greeted him. Such a coincidence. Yes, really is coincidental. This really is called traveled far and wide to look for something and finding it so easily. Dongfangxian now really understood the meaning of this phrase. Chapter 1740. A sudden situation arose really? Su Luo's lips hooked into a ghost of a smile. Don't you feel that the surroundings seem a bit fishy? From Su Luo mentioning this, Dongfangxian really felt a trace of something being off. But specifically where it was fishy he couldn't say. He only felt that the bottom of his heart was somewhat cold. Loathsome girl, what other ghost are you creating? Dongfangxian's cold eyes stared fixedly on Su Luo. A trace of fear flashed through his eyes. His actions indicated he was taking precautions. Su Luo laughed out loud with a content expression. Want to know? I just won't tell you. Su Luo knew that the more she was like this, the more overly suspicious Dongfangxian would be, making his hands and feet itch from uncertainty. Only this way would her chances of winning be greater. In fact, Dongfangxian's reaction was as Su Luo expected. His cultivation, because of his suspicions, couldn't fully be put to use. Then you just accept death. Dongfangxian's expression was sinister. In one ice seals the world move. It directly smashed towards Su Luo's head. The huge snowball whizzed over with cold wind, as if the entire world had entered an ice age. Su Luo quickly retreated back, but the more that snowball rolled, the bigger it became and the faster it got. Faced with this huge snowball, Su Luo was like a tiny ant. No matter how fast her speed soared, she wasn't able to run out from the attack range of the snowball. In contrast, as the huge snowball's speed became faster and faster, the distance between the two got closer and closer. This move by Dongfangxian showed he was serious. He was trying to use one move to directly settle Su Luo. Watching Su Luo being chased by that huge snowball, Dongfangxian's mouth hooked into a sinister smirk. Su Luo goodbye. Watching Su Luo being fiercely crushed by the snowball as it passed, Dongfang Xian had his hands on his hips as he howled with laughter, facing the front. His laugh was happy and carefree, as if the anger accumulated for a long time was finally set free at this moment. As if all the air he sucked in now carried a refreshing sweet scent. Su Luo was dead, forever dead. In the future, he wouldn't ever see that loathsome girl's repulsive face. Dongfang Xian's mood was extremely fine. But very quickly, his smile froze at the corner of his mouth. Su Luo's. Where was the body? Even if she was squashed into mush, at the least, there should still be meat pieces? But when Dongfang Xian controlled the huge snowball, and his spirit entered to check, he very quickly discovered that something was wrong. Because there wasn't a trace of blood on the snowball. That was to say Su Luo disappeared into thin air. This damn shit, in the end what happened? Alive must see the person, death you should always see a body, right? Recalling that strange smile of Su Luo's from before, Dongfang Xian couldn't help but feel cold air coming from the soles of his feet. His ice-cold gaze quickly shot in all four directions, but what made him despair was that Su Luo seemed to have disappeared into thin air. Dongfang Xian was jealous and not resigned. He once again released his spirit sense, searching inch by inch. But what made him thoroughly depressed was, Su Luo had really disappeared. This loathsome girl really is a slippery mouse having 9 lives. No matter what, can't kill her. Both of Dongfang Xian's hands were clenched into tight fists. His fists shook nonstop because of his fury. All the veins on the back of his hands exploded out. Go die, go die, go die. Once again letting Su Luo escape, Dongfang Xian's heart was extremely angry. Now he couldn't control it anymore and went berserk. His fists started to bombard the surroundings. Very quickly, in all directions, the dark green that filled the eyes were raised to the ground. There were holes on all sides, and there wasn't an inch of the earth that was smooth. It seemed as if it had been rocked by major violence. Being arrogant. Seeing Dongfang Xian go berserk, Su Luo wished she could bite him to death. Before, when the huge snowball rolled over, after accurately calculating everything in her head, when she knew she had less than 60 seconds and would be squashed by the snowball, she had firmly carried out the measures. Chapter 1741, Fleeing for her life from the tiger's den 1. Su Luo knew that if she went up, Dongfang Xian definitely wouldn't let her escape. So she decisively took the measure of going down, which was to drill deep into the earth. With the variant acacia tree's huge root system present, burrowing a tunnel naturally wasn't a problem. In fact, the variant acacia tree merely withdrew one strong and thick root, and a long black hole appeared underground. Su Luo just had to slide down as if going down a slide. Sliding down and reaching the end, then following the root system to feel her way up. Su Luo once again returned to the place she stayed before inside that ancient tree's trunk. Just because the most dangerous place was the safest place. Even if Dongfang Xian died, he wouldn't have guessed that Su Luo would climb back into that ancient tree's trunk under his helpless gaze. Therefore, Su Luo felt that this time, she was finally safe. But Su Luo, guessing back and forth, still underestimated Dongfang Xian's rage. She never expected that Dongfang Xian's rage would be this strong. When he moved, it would be that fierce, thoroughly ruining the surroundings. The variant acacia tree was petrified in place. Although it was slightly injured, it wasn't serious. Right now, the variant acacia tree was still uncertain if it should fall to the ground. This way, it might seem to fit in with the surroundings. Just when the variant acacia tree hesitated, suddenly, it saw Dongfang Xian take large strides towards it. The variant acacia tree was Su Luo's plant pet. Through the variant acacia tree's eyes, Su Luo naturally could understand the situation outside. She watched helplessly as Dongfang Xian took large strides to walk over. Suddenly, a not-so-good premonition rose in her heart. To escape now. Was there still time? Su Luo was just about to stealthily follow the original black hole to slip away, when Dongfang Xian's cold eyes narrowed, starting at this ancient tree. That cold light in his eyes made Su Luo feel afraid involuntarily. Then she subconsciously curled up and became motionless, even to the point of stifling the beating of her heart. Because Su Luo knew, right now Dongfang Xian was using his spirit force to scan this tree up and down. The variant acacia tree deliberately repressed its strength, pretending to be a stupid ancient tree, let alone to say her. Dongfeng Xian stood firmly about a meter in front of the ancient tree. After scanning it, he didn't find anything strange about it. But he wouldn't give up. He continuously circled around the ancient tree while his right hand stroked his chin, as if he was pondering deeply. Su Luo's heart jumped, wishing Dongfeng Xian would leave earlier. But things always turned out contrary to her wishes. Not only didn't Dongfeng Xian leave, but he stopped in the place that was in front of Su Luo, separated by a layer of tree bark, as he carefully pondered. Suddenly he stroked his chin and mumbled to himself. This plant pet seems to be stupid, but able to fight and endure a beating. I can barely use it. What? Su Luo opened her eyes wide inside the ancient tree. What did Dongfeng Xian's words mean? It's not like what she was thinking, right? At this time, Dongfeng Xian's voice came through faintly. Plant pets are hard to find. Since that loathsome girl has a plant pet, then I'll reluctantly accept one too. Su Luo ridiculed in her heart. Could you not be so reluctant? A pity Dongfeng Xian couldn't hear Su Luo's heart. Even if he could hear it, then that's to say, whatever Su Luo said, he would definitely go in the other direction. Therefore Su Luo's ridicule didn't have a bit of use on him. Now one only saw Dongfeng Xian roll up his sleeves, both hands pressed on that ancient tree. Chapter 1742. Fleeing for her life from the tiger's den too. What do you want to do? Su Luo, inside the large tree, had two broad streaks of tears flowing down with crashing sounds. Was there a more tragic story than hers? Originally, she thought that the most dangerous place was the safest place, but who would have known that the most dangerous place was still the most dangerous place? Up! One only heard Dongfeng Xian give a loud shout. Then a burst of crashing noise sounded. The long tree trunk was directly put on Dongfeng Xian's shoulder. Su Luo only felt her body sway for a period. Her thin and weak body was shaken to roll east, then fell west. Afterwards, she discovered that Dongfeng Xian really carried this tree to sweep all over the place. Su Luo felt that no words could describe her current situation and mood. Watching Dongfeng Xian searching in all directions, Su Luo knew he still hadn't given up. He was still looking for her hiding place. Seeing him put so much effort into searching, Su Luo had a feeling of deep sympathy towards Dongfeng Xian. She had no choice but to say that he was also a tragic child. She was laying inside on his shoulder, but he still didn't know. And he continued to search nonstop within a range of 10 meters. Moreover, his movements were extremely frantic. In the places he swept through, the ancient trees all became powder. All living things became nothingness, with exception to the tree on his shoulder. Now left for Su Luo was two roads. One was while Dongfeng Xian was going crazy, she would very quietly slip away, in a hush-hush manner. The other was to take advantage of Dongfeng Xian going crazy. She'd kill him with one sword strike to solve all her problems. Then, which route should she take? Su Luo stroked her chin and began to ponder. Having thought for a while, Su Luo made up her mind. To always be chased to be killed wasn't something she wanted to see. Then taking the initiative to attack might actually get an unexpected result. Thinking up to here, Su Luo decided to walk the second path. But wanting to kill Dongfeng Xian in secret, this was a very difficult problem. If it was the Dongfeng Xian that didn't enter the Spirit River, Su Luo's secret of attack would have a 50% of success. Now, she didn't even have a 20% certainty of success. However, opportunity only knocks once. In the future, she wouldn't have such a chance of foolishly staying on his back. If she didn't do it now, then when should she wait until? Su Luo's mouth hooked into a cold smile. Her sleeves flipped and the dagger appeared in the palm of her originally empty right hand. Su Luo took a deep breath and quietly waited for the best time to arrive. Loathsome girl, where did you run to in the end? Dongfeng Xian mumbled to himself. His brows were tightly creased, so tight they could pinch an ant to death. Within a range of 10 meters, there were no signs of human life. There were no living creatures. How could anyone respond? The targeted character Su Luo silently gripped her dagger, eyes tightly closed, afraid of any carelessness, and she would be discovered by Dongfeng Xian. No matter what, must find this loathsome girl. Otherwise, when Nangong Luyun settles that gigantic dragon and chases over, at that time, it would be troublesome. Dongfang Xian's tone had a trace of impatience. He knew this world was balanced. He had picked up the Dragon King's command that summoned the gigantic dragon. But he knew that the time that gigantic dragon appeared would be limited. As to what kind of restrictions, he wasn't clear. Su Luo's dagger slowly moved forward, penetrated through the tree bark, revealing its sharp light. 3 inches. 2 inches. 1 inch. Su Luo's heart was tightly clenched, and she was somewhat nervous. After all, the person she wanted to kill right now was Dongfang Xian, and not someone else, whose cultivation was much higher than hers. Chapter 1743. Fleeing for her life from the tiger's den 3. Just when Su Luo's dagger was preparing to stab down fiercely, all of a sudden, Dongfang Xian's pair of hands reached back, and stood the ancient tree in front vertically. Su Luo only felt a burst of dizziness. When she returned to her senses, she discovered she didn't have a chance because this ancient tree was directly inserted into the ground. Fortunately, Su Luo's reaction was very quick, subconsciously taking back the dagger. After she got her dagger back, her heart felt complicated. She was annoyed at herself for losing such a great opportunity to assassinate him. She was also worried if Dongfang Xian's sharp eyes could see traces where the dagger stabbed out. Ha! Dongfang Xian suddenly cried out in surprise. Very quickly, he noticed the markings where the dagger stabbed through. Because matters were just such a coincidence, this mark was just staring at Dongfang Xian, at a distance parallel to his gaze. Quickly run! Su Luo secretly instructed the variant acacia tree, if it didn't run now, it would be caught. The variant acacia tree hurriedly nodded. Among its huge root system, one root quickly extended forward, several tens of meters under the ground, silently extending out, just like a creek water flowing by quietly. Even Dongfang Xian couldn't sense it. Su Luo risked the danger of being discovered, held her breath and grabbed the variant acacia's root as it quietly sent her down into the ground. Soon after, it quickly sent her forward. During this whole process, Su Luo didn't move her body herself. Because if she even moved slightly, that fluctuation in the spirit aura would be perceived by Dongfang Xian. She only laid there motionless, her body bound by one root among variant acacia tree's root system. Afterwards, letting it quickly transport her. Let's not talk about Su Luo now silently escaping this dangerous place, just talk about Dongfang Xian. At this time, Dongfang Xian was staring unblinkingly at that very tiny scar on the tree bark. His eyes were narrowed into slits. This clearly was the mark of a dagger having sliced by. Moreover, inferring from the time this wound was created, it ought to have been created not long ago. This tree, he had always carried on his shoulder, then how was the wound created? Dongfang Xian's brain spun quickly. Suddenly, a light shone from his eyes. A kind of impossible-to-believe deduction appeared in his head. Impossible, right? Dongfang Xian thought up to here, and without thinking, his fist directly smashed towards that ancient tree. But with just one fist strike, he sensed that things were not right. He remembered that this ancient tree was able to withstand a lot of smashing and beating. It was also because of this that he took an extra glance at it. Now he used the same strength to smash over, and a little less than half of this tree actually exploded and collapsed. And in the middle of the tree, a hole that could allow 5 people to stand in appeared in front of him. This aura. Dongfang Xian held his breath with rapt attention, as he carefully used his spirit sense to identify this aura in the center of the ancient tree. When he identified it after great difficulty, immediately, his entire person didn't feel good. One only saw his complexion turned ashen, and eyes become bloodshot. His sinister gaze was full of hatred as he stared at this ancient tree. His expression fluctuated between clear and overcast, suddenly dark then suddenly light. Dongfang Xian was angered to the extreme. A countless number of shadows of fists smashed towards the ancient tree. This ancient tree was already free from variant acacia tree's control. It was just an ordinary ancient tree that was rather old and nothing more. One could just imagine how hard it was. Only several hits from Dongfang Xian's fist, and it was smashed into powder. As for the variant acacia tree, Once it saw the situation was wrong, it had long abandoned its use of spirit mind to control the ancient tree. Afterwards, it followed behind Su Luo and ran far away. Naturally, it wouldn't remain behind to let Dongfang Xian bully it. Chapter 1744. Fleeing Underground 1. How could it be like this? How could it be like this? Loathsome girl. Dongfang Xian raised his head to the sky and howled loudly. Dongfang Xian discovered he was a fool. A super huge fool. Within a range of 5 kilometers, all living things were turned to dust by him, while what he was really looking for, he had carried on his own shoulder. He actually ran into this kind of debacle. Dongfang Xian didn't know what to say about himself. After howling loudly for a while, Dongfang Xian gradually calmed down. He became aware after the fact that the matter of most importance wasn't to vent his rage. Rather, he must find a way to capture back the loathsome Su Luo that was like a mudfish that keeps slipping from his hand. Loathsome girl, don't think you can escape. Dongfang Xian snarled hatefully. Soon after, he calmed down to analyze the situation. Now he was certain that before Su Luo had always hid inside this ancient tree. Then when did she run away? If it was said that she ran away along the way, Dongfang Xian carefully examined that ancient tree once over, then shook his head. He vetoed this idea. If Su Luo ran away midway during his search, it was impossible that he didn't sense it. Then, the only possibility was when he inserted the ancient tree into the ground so she had a chance to slip away. Because at that time, the ancient tree left his hand while in contact with the earth. If Su Luo could tunnel underground, please pardon Dongfang Xian. No matter how large a hole was in his mind, he still couldn't imagine the fantastic scene of the variant acacia tree's root system, which with one poke as it wished, and an underground tunnel would show up. Dongfang Xian thought that if Su Luo could tunnel underground, then that would explain how Su Luo disappeared into thin air when attacked by the huge snowball. Afterwards, the strange matter of her appearing inside the ancient tree. Thinking up to here, Dongfang Xian immediately pushed aside the ancient tree, then looked down. Sure enough, a hole that was wide enough for one person to pass through appeared in front of Dongfang Xian. Loathsome girl. Dongfang Xian's gaze had a sinister and cruel expression. This black hole proved that all his guesses were correct. At the same time, it also proved how crafty Su Luo, that loathsome girl, was. Don't think this time you really escaped. Wait until I capture you. I definitely will make you feel that death is better than living. Dongfang Xian's eyes were cold and dark. Soon after, his figure quickly drilled into the hole. Because this hole was dug out by the variant acacia tree. So when Dongfang Xian quickly pursued inside, very quickly, it sensed him. At the same time, it passed on this news to Su Luo. So quickly he chased up. Su Luo frowned slightly. Dongfang Xian's reaction was a lot faster than she had imagined. Now what should she do? Su Luo's mind spun quickly. Inside the black hole was not good for engaging in combat, but very suitable for concealing oneself. All of a sudden, Su Luo's mouth hooked into a full of interest expression. Her jet-black pupils whirled. People familiar with her would know that at this time, they must avoid her. But Dongfang Xian didn't know, so he was still laboriously chasing after her. Su Luo quietly asked the variant acacia tree. Underground, can your root system still expand out? Can. The variant acacia tree excitedly patted its chest. Its tone was exceptionally loud and clear. Then that's good. Su Luo's heart was exalted. Then she gave the variant acacia tree several instructions. She patted its leaves to say, quickly go, this time will all depend on you. To serve master is my honor. Because variant acacia tree had favorable position to use its skills, its face had an excitement that couldn't be described with words. After getting Su Luo's instructions, the variant acacia tree became busy, going about its business. Chapter 1745. Fleeing Underground 2. One only saw a very small variant acacia tree, but its roots expanded out at a speed the naked eyes could see. It became thick and solid, then very long. The 4 thick roots extended in all 4 directions. In fact, Su Luo's plan was very simple. Just now, She suddenly recalled the situation in the demon cave at that time. That place had a maze. Almost at every turn, several more roads would appear to choose from. So Su Luo also learned from that, and let the variant acacia tree build 4 different paths. Like this, when Dongfang Xian rushed over, wouldn't it make him hesitate for a long time? Moreover, with 4 paths, if he wanted to find the correct one, he would need to spend a lot of effort. Originally, Su Luo's speed couldn't be compared to Dongfang Xian's. If she was continuously chased in this underground tunnel, sooner or later, she would be caught. But now Su Luo used this method, and it would be a great hindrance to Dongfang Xian hunting her down. All the wrath in Dongfang Xian's heart turned into speed, going all out to chase. But before he ran very far, when he saw the 4 small paths standing in front of him, Dongfang Xian's expression changed slightly. Could it be that underneath there was already a tunnel? Dongfang Xian's eyes opened wide in disbelief. Otherwise, based on Su Luo's ability to dig holes, how could she run and dig at the same time? Moreover, still 4 paths? While Dongfang Xian mumbled to himself, his footsteps stopped. His fingers pinched a small piece of earth to examine carefully. Afterwards, his brows wrinkled tightly. Not right, these earth definitely couldn't have existed for long. If it's like this, Dongfang Xian arrived at a conclusion. At Su Luo's side must be an organism that was really good at digging holes. Even at this stage, Dongfang Xian still couldn't imagine that in fact, the matter of digging holes were merely as simple as the variant acacia tree extending its root system. The 4 roads ahead, all traces of Su Luo having passed though had been erased. Although it's not as bad as Dongfang Xian rushing into every road and rush back out. He still had no choice but to release his spirit aura to check. Among them, there were 3 roads that's less than several kilometers before stopping. Only the other one continuously extended out without an end. Loathsome girl. Dongfang Xian very fiercely spit out these words. He got up and directly pursued. But this kind of thing wasn't only once, rather countless times. This occurred in a loop. Every time Dongfang Xian's speed rose to the extreme, he would discover 4 roads appearing up ahead. Then he would examine the roads one by one and chose the correct one in the end, and increase his speed to pursue. Like this, the distance between the 2 increased. How could Dongfang Xian catch Su Luo like this? The distance between the 2 not only didn't decrease, but actually became further and further apart. Like this, Su Luo tunneled underground and unconsciously walked for a long time. When she detected the atmosphere up ahead was moist, then she stopped. After going up to look from underground, when Su Luo touched the sunlight, she was slightly unused to it. But very quickly, she restored to normal. Up ahead was a large river. The river automatically flowed westwards. Su Luo took out the map and checked whether if she wanted to go north, was this wide river the route she must take. But Su Luo carefully examined this river. The surface of the river was a dark green color, clean but not clear. No one knew what was hidden beneath. Right now, the surface of the river was calm as a mirror, without a single ripple. The surface of the river was several hundreds of meters wide. Based on Su Luo's current strength, wanting to fly over it was simply impossible. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.